today we're going to be taking a very close look at everything Nintendo did in 2024 and giving them a letter grade.
Oh my gosh.
This is my worst nightmare as an Asian child.
What did you say you were going to do to Nintendo?
I said I was going to Asian mom Nintendo.
What does that mean?
You know, Asian moms are the most toughest when it comes to report cards.
Oh.
They'll get you.
What?
You don't get those A's, you can get it.
Oh no.
Stand in the corner.
Nintendo's going to have to stand in the corner?
Yeah, face the wall.
You've told me some stories about standing in the corner.
You gotta stand in the corner. Any other Asian
What is
kid.
it, the Blair Witch Project? Or like...
It's just like boring, you know? Any Asian kid would know that this punishment. Kneel in the corner is very common.
Oh, kneel.
A lot of kneeling.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Nintendo's gonna kneel if they don't get an A. But that's what we're doing today. We're going to be going through everything that Nintendo did this year, all the games that they released.
It's more than just games.
All the entertainment things that they did, all the non-game products, weird things that they came up with that we didn't expect. And just like, what is the future outlook for them as well, going into 2025?
Look, it's December now. We're in our finest holiday outfits.
So nice.
It's just natural to be a bit reflective and look back at what's happened in the year, so we're going to do that.
Yes.
We had a real rocky re-entry into the office after Thanksgiving
yesterday.
We did? You accused me of being mean.
You were mean.
Being mean-spirited to you.
You were so mean to me.
I don't know what... It was like, look, this is what happened. You got to shake off the cobwebs. We've been gone...
I didn't have any cobwebs.
For a couple... I think you did.
No, I didn't. I was fine.
No,
you accused me of not doing any work.
Well, there was some...
During a holiday.
Well, something that really seemed to upset you was that we were talking about some, like, clip or short that you needed to make. You're like, well, which one is it? Is it a clip or a short? And all I said was, either way, it's something you haven't done yet. And you didn't like that.
No.
You really didn't like that. You really walked out the door. I was like,
I was offended.
Here we go again.
Can't take any breaks. He's got to keep making shorts all through Thanksgiving dinner.
I didn't say you had to have it done, but I said you can do it
Eating
now.
a pumpkin pie with one hand, making a short with another.
Now you can do it.
Is that what you want?
This is that content
what you want?
Grind that you hear about.
Is that what you want?
Huh? You can do what you'd like. I'll do what I like.
You're not making shorts or clips. What are you doing?
Something else that's happening in December is the Game Awards.
It's true.
Which is next week.
You really panicked yesterday. You were like, did you know Game Awards is a week and a half away? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Continue.
It was just a big pop quiz for you yesterday.
Yeah?
One after the other. Yeah, maybe you had to stand in the corner.
You in the corner.
So we're going, we have a really, we've gone... So this is the 10th year for the Game Awards, and we've been to how many?
I've gone since year 2.
I think I missed 2 of them.
I missed 2 of them too.
The pandemic, nobody was at that one.
No.
And then the year after was kind of a real small.
Oh, then I missed 3.
Small group.
Then I missed 3.
You missed the first one.
I missed the first one. I didn't go to the first one.
Okay, the Vegas one.
I didn't go to the Vegas one. Yeah, but I went to every single one after that, except for the pandemic one.
Right.
And the one that was right after the
2021.
pandemic. 2021. We were still at Nintendo, but we didn't go to that one.
Right. Not very many people went to that.
It was like one
period.
person.
It was like Doug Bowser.
It was Doug Bowser. Literally, it was Doug Bowser.
Yeah.
But ever since,
we've gone to all the others.
We've gone to all the. Wow.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
I do wonder what Jeff's going to do for the 10-year. What does he call it? Is it a gala I don't know what that means.
What did he say?
He has some special name. It's the 10-year gala celebration.
Really? There's a gala?
I would love to know what you mean by that.
What does he mean by gala?
That's what I'd like to know.
What's the dress code,
Do I need to pack a tuxedo?
Because I already bought my outfit and it's not gala.
What are we doing? So it'll be interesting to see what he's got planned for that. But as part of this trip, we're going to Super Nintendo World again because
I'm so excited about
they're doing a big holiday setup in the park.
Yeah, they did this in Japan, I believe, last year, but not in the one in Hollywood. This year, the holiday extravaganza seems to be coming to the Hollywood one as well.
Is it there now? It's got to be there now.
It's there now because I already got spoiled on all the cool holiday merch. Darn it, I want it.
Well, we're going to get some of that, I think.
Yeah. But they have a really cool, all the decorations are up. It's very Nintendo themed. I saw a Mario snowman that I was, Mario...
like a real one. Like a physical...
Yeah, like a physical... I really need...
Nice.
I need to hug it.
Can you? Are you allowed?
I'll hug it and run.
Will you be kicked out?
I'll be banned from Super Nintendo World. I wonder if they have any special little holiday treats at the Toad Cafe. So we'll find out.
If we can get in.
Well, we have we kind of figured out how to manage through that park, I feel like, because we got the early passes again.
Yes.
So we can get in and put our name on the reservation list. So.
I love getting into a theme park at 6 in the morning.
We have an early flight that day.
My favorite thing to do.
And then the first thing we do when we get off the plane is to go to the theme park. So you're going to be in a great mood.
Oh, boy.
We just get you sugared up.
Oh, boy. Oh, there we go.
Sugared up, and then you'll be just fine.
Perfect.
But we're going to vlog all of it, obviously, for you guys. We're going to vlog our time at Super Nintendo World, our time at the TGA 10th Anniversary Gala, I guess, whatever. And you'll see everything that we get up to that week in LA. So it should be really fun. Yeah, it's going to be
our last big Super Kit and Krysta vlog of 2024. Yeah. Close it out in a big way. Those are always fun and popular. So looking forward to that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Something that is out now, no more waiting, is our Mario movie spoiler cast.
So much fun.
It's on the streets.
Spoiler cast and watch along.
Plus watch along commentary. What did that thing? So the total thing clocked in at like 3
hours and 17 minutes, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
To the dot.
So it's really fun. We do the spoiler cast as the first part of that. It's one long video, right? So spoiler cast is first. We go through all the things. This one was a really fun one because obviously it's not a game, so we kind of talked about it in a little bit different way, but we had so many notes, and the good thing about this is, there is this wonderful person in our community, Ryan
Haas, yes,
who has done the yeoman's work, Reggie's term, of archiving so much history about this movie. So we were able to use a lot of that in our spoiler cast discussion, which was super fun. I learned so much about the making of this movie, and it was just fun to have that history. Yeah. And then we do a little cute countdown in the middle, and then straight into the watch along. Right. So it's really fun.
So that's up. That's exclusive for Patreon folks at Notification Squad and up, but also just in the Patreon shop. Low price, $5.
$5.
Get all that
3
stuff.
3 hours.
Get all that stuff.
That's like pennies per second.
What do you know about a yeoman?
I don't know anything. But that is literally what Reggie used to say to us all the time.
I mean, that's a fairly common phrase.
It's a
yeoman's work.
I think it's like, is that the person that's carrying the burden?
That means you're doing hard work. It's kind of like hard, thankless work. Yeah. You're like tilling the earth of in the old days.
I imagine like someone carrying 2 barrels of water and walking down a country road.
Exactly. Yes.
That's what I imagine in my brain.
That would be yeoman's work.
I imagine Ryan Haas. Yes. 2 buckets of scripts walking down a country road.
That reminds me of like a Magic the Gathering card, Swords to Plowshares.
Oh, plowshares.
Where you could basically take all the enemies that your opponent had and they just go poof and they all just vanish. It's like they all just turned, the violence of the war has turned to tilling the earth. Swords to Plowshares.
What if you salt the earth? Nothing can grow?
We're not talking about this.
That would be really mean.
Too agricultural. I don't know anything else about this. I'm talking about a magic card, okay?
But anyways, that was Reggie's favorite thing to say. But when he would tell you that you're doing the yeoman's work, you're like, I am.
Yeah,
Reggie.
that was a great compliment.
It was thankless. I hated it, but the compliment for you means everything. And then you cry in the corner. Once again in the corner.
Yes, go back to the corner.
Back to the corner.
We have wrapped up our Black Friday sale.
We have.
Those great merch items went back into the vault. Will they be back ever again? I don't know. Who's to say? Not us. But the new thing that's out is our new merch featuring an incredible original design by David Hellman. And it's so incredible that we're going to have him on the podcast next week. To talk about this, but talk about a lot of other things.
Right.
He's an incredible video game industry artist. Braid, heard of that game?
Yes.
Arranger,
one of the most
important indie games ever made. And Arranger, a great indie game that came out this year.
Right.
So he's going to join us, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things, kind of his career, being an artist in games. That's going to be on the podcast next week. But in the meantime, you can check out this hot merch.
Right. David is actually local in the Bay Area, too. So
convenient.
He'll be here in the studio live. I know you guys love the live guests, and we do too. So he'll stay for the whole episode, and we'll get to talking about him. But also, we'll go through all the games we're playing, the news, questions. So it'll be really fun to have him on. But yes, we're so obsessed with this new piece of merch. We have it on all sorts of cool stuff in our merch store. We'll leave the link right here. But go check it out. It's very, very cool.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but the week after that episode is Game of the Year. And we're already deep into planning about that.
Yes.
And
it's not the 10th anniversary, but it is very important.
This is the 3rd anniversary.
We'll get there.
It's going to be big. It's going to be big this year.
The 10th anniversary will also be a gala here in the studio.
Yes, well, we're going to see
a gala of 2.
We're still working out what that means. We got 7 years to get there. Let's get into our big grading assignment for Nintendo's 2024. But first, we got a great sponsor to shout out. This podcast is sponsored by ExpressVPN.
Thank you.
You ever heard of this incognito mode? You think, well,
don't work.
You think like, well, I click this and nobody will ever know what I'm doing. So down to my business here. But no, it's not as incognito as you think. In fact, Google recently had to settle a $5 with a B dollar lawsuit because they were secretly tracking users who were in incognito mode.
Oh no.
And all the stuff that you're doing online is still 100% visible to all sorts of third parties, unless you are using ExpressVPN.
So scary, how nefarious things are online. And you think about all the personal information, not even just the stuff that you're inputting in willingly, but the stuff that's just on your computer, bank account, social security numbers, so many ways for you to put your identity at risk unless you use a VPN service.
So if you are in incognito mode, here are the people who can still see it. It gets more alarming as this list goes on.
Oh no.
Your internet service provider, okay. Your mobile network provider, okay. The admins of your network, including your school, your boss, and your parents.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my gosh.
Back in the corner for you. Definitely back in the corner. You're in the corner forever.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, ExpressVPN just totally reroutes all of your traffic through these secure and encrypted servers. So these people, parents, cannot see your browsing history.
Right.
And this is relevant to what I was just saying about Game of the Year because we have a great category that's celebrating video game butts. So I have to do, personally,
extensive research.
A lot of research
yes.
about video game butts. And it's like, it's like sometimes on the internet, it's like one thing leads to another. And so it's like, oh, we saw you were searching for this. Maybe now you want to see this. It's like, no, I'm really focused on these video game butts. Let's keep it to that.
Uh-huh.
So.
Careful.
ExpressVPN.
Imagine if your mom knew what you were looking at.
I need to be laser focused.
On butts.
On video game butts and nothing else right now.
Got it.
So thank you, ExpressVPN, for making that possible.
Got it.
Do you see what I mean?
I do.
Do you understand?
Deeply.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you. Right now, take advantage of ExpressVPN's Black Friday and Cyber Monday offer to get the absolute best VPN deal you will find all year. Use our special link, expressvpn.com/KitandKrysta to get 4 extra months with a 12-month plan or 6 extra months with a 24-month plan totally free.
Whoa.
That's expressvpn.com/KitandKrysta to get an extra 4 or even 6 months of ExpressVPN for free.
It's a really good deal.
That is.
We're going to put the link here with the QR code that you can scan and also in the description below.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Down to grading. Get the red pen out.
My English
See me after class.
Oh, that's you don't want.
Did you ever get that?
No.
No.
Yes.
Oh, no.
My English teacher tried to be like really different. And she would use a green pen.
Okay.
But then you would get your essay back,
really
and it'd just be like completely green, and everyone would know that like she totally ripped your thing apart.
It makes no difference at all what color the pen is, actually.
Yeah, she was a great. I loved her. She was a great teacher.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So yeah, this is such an interesting thing to do because if this was 10 years ago, 2014, all we would have to judge this on is like a list of games.
Right.
And that would kind of define what kind of year Nintendo had. But now, 10 years later, there's a lot of other stuff that factors into this equation. There's, the whole entertainment side of the business, which has become so big over just the last couple years.
Yeah.
We've had these weird forays into non-games like Alarmo. And they've also had to do this kind of tricky balance of looking ahead to the future, but in a way that doesn't spill the beans completely, because obviously they're going to properly reveal Switch 2 later. So it's a very interesting year. But maybe just to start, I did want to ask you, every year at Nintendo, they would go through, like, here's the corporate goals for 2024 for every year. And then they would literally hand you a notebook.
It was a notebook with it printed inside.
The first page of that was so you could constantly remind yourself of the corporate goals.
It was like a big reveal, too, when they were like, oh, the corporate goals for the year are ready. Are you guys ready to, like, internalize this information? And then you get the page for the notebook.
And a lot of times, like, those goals were, like, from
obvious.
Captain Obvious, like, drive breakthrough sales for Nintendo Switch. Like, yeah, no kidding.
Duh.
What else you got?
Solidify Nintendo's brand and entertainment as one of the most, blah, 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 bring smiles.
But if you were the big boss kind of coming up at the start of the year, like what's a couple sentences you would have used to say, like, here's what we're trying to do this year?
Yeah, I think definitely, this idea of getting people to stay focused on Nintendo Switch in its last year and make it like the best year ever is probably on that sheet of paper. This idea of, people are mentally moving on, and Nintendo sees that as well, obviously. But this need to just give Switch the last holiday season for Switch the best possible. That focus, I think, is going to be on that goals list.
Yeah, I would say something like, maximize Nintendo Switch's last full year in the market, but also in a way, you want to do that in a way that uses as little resources as possible.
Right.
Because from a development standpoint, your big resources, your big name dev teams
moved on.
They're working on the Switch too.
Yeah, they've moved on long time ago.
And you'll see that when we go through this list of games, is like there's not a lot that was really like 100% done by Nintendo. So they were kind of like, calling in other teams, being kind of scrappy of how they put these games together. So that's kind of like a hidden message of that point. It was like, maximize the potential, but not in a way that sucks everything out of what we've got to work with here.
Yeah, I mean, they have definitely shifted their resources into future planning. So now it's all about like, do the best you can with what you're given.
Yes.
And that's going to be a message, especially to the marketing team. Like, you're not going to be given like a Tears of the Kingdom level game this year. Mm-hmm. You're going to get an Echoes of Wisdom type of game this year. So what can you do with that?
Yes.
And yes, I think that there is some acknowledgement, like there are things that we do need to talk about that is future looking. There are games that we may need to tease that are future looking. We're going to do that very strategically and carefully, but we're going to maintain like hopefully 90 to 95% of the focus on the here and now, which Nintendo's always been very, they've always said that, like the here and now is what's important. The future will come when it comes, and we'll talk about it then. Like that's always been their sort of company, motto. So yeah, so I think that's definitely what was on the docket this year for sure.
Right. The one other thing that I would note in terms of goals is I would add another one that's kind of like, continue the company's transformation into an entertainment company.
Yeah.
Transformation was always a hot word. That was
I love transformation.
That was a great word.
Yeah.
Because I had to do this for our team too. It was like, what are your goals for the year? What are you aspiring to do next year? It's like, well, we're definitely transforming. Play the sound effect like I'm Optimus Prime here. We're transforming. Look at me, turned into a little toy truck.
I'm a car now.
Speeding away.
Oh wow! I'm a Corvette.
But yeah, I think that's become such a big, so quickly, such a big part of the company, and. We're going to spend a lot of time on that when we start to dig into this.
Yeah, so. And they'll definitely, even though they're working with, smaller types of games, not their triple A stuff, they're sort of in this tail end of an incredible hardware life cycle. I think Nintendo still wants to surprise and delight you.
Yes.
So this is where we're getting kind of the surprising non-Nintendo, or I'm sorry, non-game things that kind of come out to surprise people and hopefully delight people.
Yes.
But they're still really focused on. They still want to do that.
Yes.
They still want to be a little zany, and if they can surprise you, they still want to do that.
So let's dig into this, and at the end we'll I think we'll each come up with our own grade.
I think we should come up with our own grade.
And then we have a community grade as well that we're going to share. So let's start with the games, though. We kind of minimize those, but that is still the bread and butter of what the company is doing. So I'll just rattle off all the first-party releases for the year. Another Code, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Princess Peach Showtime, the Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC, Endless Ocean Luminous, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door Remake, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, the Splatoon Grand. It's not a game, but Splatoon Grand Festival felt was a significant in-game event that was worth putting on this list.
It was like the end of something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Famicom Detective Club, Smiling Man, Emio. I think I said that in completely backwards order.
You really butchered that.
You just wrote Emio.
I wrote Emio because everyone knows what that is.
Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Super Mario Party Jamboree, and Mario and Luigi Brothership. Obviously, this is not counting the huge shadow drop that's happening at the Game Awards next week. Right?
Yes, here it comes.
Metroid Prime 3, 4, and 5 are all just coming at the Game Awards. Wink,
Whoa!
Wink. So what do you make of this list of games here?
Yeah, like you were saying, all of the big sort of development resources are definitely probably like gone to the Switch 2 and are really focused on that next set of launch titles for the next hardware. So you are looking at a smaller in scope set of games. You were saying, I think I totally agree with you, is like they pulled a lot of external resources to help like partner with them to make these games. A lot of these games were like co-developed by, other studios. And they're definitely smaller in scope. So it is a little bit different from a typical like mid-life cycle Nintendo software release where you at least get, 1 or 2 AAA games. This is probably the most like muted list of games.
You didn't seem to suggest that Mario and Luigi Brothership was limited in scope. We'll talk about that later.
It's limited in quality.
I'm trolling.
Limited in quality, not in scope. No,
I'm majorly trolling you.
We should talk about that later.
Now, I did just list off. I just counted. That's 13 things.
Yeah,
so more than
one a month.
One a month,
more-ish than one a month.
I do think this is where they deserve some credit. Where there have been years when consoles have been winding down before.
Dry, yeah.
Where they just let go of the rope, and it's like, hey, we all know what's going on.
Yeah.
We've got to move on to the next thing to get those games ready. So you'll just kind of have to deal with this really light year. And to their credit, they delivered, the same general volume of games.
Quality-wise, lacking.
I didn't say that.
Volume-wise, still there.
But, we talked about how they've been so good in this generation of just cranking out games. And, they aren't huge releases, but I still think people found, within this, I think there was a handful of games that most players were able to find and get excited with. They did not have the staying power that a lot of the previous years games had. So I do really wonder, that key metric that they have of, like, the engaged player, like how often you're playing the Switch, any downtime or gaps that you have in your Switch playtime. I have to imagine
that number the percentage has grown significantly.
The downtime
percentage has grown.
Because
I'm sure they're putting it down in between games for longer and longer now.
Right. The staying power was just not there. Like there were a lot of these games that felt like even the bigger ones felt like they were here and gone.
They really came and went
within a week. Like Echoes of Wisdom kind of came and went in a week.
I know, and it's a great game that didn't. I think about the the staying power of Breath of the Wild years. So it definitely didn't have that, like, it didn't get, like, ever ingrained into conversation, like, social conversation for very long. None of these
looking at this whole list, my memory is that none of these held conversation in a significant way for more than 1 week.
Some of these games I straight up forgot about.
So I
like Mario versus Donkey Kong. I was like, what was that?
I don't want to spoil the big extravaganza, but one of the categories we will have in Game of the Year is most forgettable Nintendo Switch 2024.
There are quite a lot of them.
We can fill a category with another code, huh?
Yeah.
What? Endless Ocean? What? That happened? Oh, right.
Mario versus Donkey Kong? Who?
Nintendo World Championships? Oh, man.
Oh. Wow. Yeah.
Just came and went. And it was like kind of the build-up was more long and more impactful than when these games were actually out, which feels a bit strange and backwards.
Right. They really did try. Like,
they certainly tried.
See them trying, really, not letting go of it, just doing the best they can to get these games out there, but it did not capture any sort of audience really in a significant way.
We're getting into that time of the year where everybody will send you a recap of here's how many hours you spent doing this or that.
Yeah, I think that my Switch hours will be probably the lowest they've ever been.
That's my feeling as well.
Yeah.
Is that it's going to be for a lot of people a big step down.
Yeah.
In terms of the total hours there, because there were just other other things on other platforms. People decided to play other games on other platforms.
There were some really big, long RPG games on other platforms too that took up a lot of time.
Yeah. Let's look at third party now too, because that also makes up part of the game equation.
Yeah.
These are not in any particular order, but just big third party games that they had. Sonic X Shadow, Generations, Dragon Quest. This is not Dragon Quest 2, Dragon Quest 3.
3. Dragon Quest, I was trying to write 2D HD.
Dragon Quest 3, HD 2D Remake, Plucky Squire, Yakuza came to the Switch for the very first time, Animal Well and Balatro, those are the two biggest
indie
games, kind of Game of the Year caliber indie games. Those are both on Switch, to their credit. Prince of Persia, Anton Blast, we should talk about that. Just came out on Steam, had a last second delay on the Nintendo Switch. That version
missed Switch.
has been delayed to, as of today, TBD.
Oh no.
And like they announced that I think over the weekend. And I was like,
bad.
what happened here?
It's too bad.
Just couldn't quite work it out. It's a shame because that's such a good game. But a notable game, that was going to be a big feather in their cap. They don't have it for this year.
Yeah.
None of these games are really exclusives.
That was the thing that was
interesting
for me when I looked at this list. Like, none of these games are exclusives. It's like they didn't like not get the big games. Like they got the big games went to all the platforms.
Right.
But they didn't have anything that was like a big third party thing that was just on Switch that they could talk about, that they could like really, you know.
There was no like
build
Monster
up.
Hunter Rise level huge third party exclusive.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to put this on the same pedestal as our first party stuff because it's that good. And
There's none of that this year.
There was none of that. And specifically in this list, we just noted in our own community and even within ourselves, and I think this is probably a pretty widespread thing. Games that people might have played on the Switch before, they started to play them on other platforms.
Yeah.
So like you in Dragon Quest.
I know.
You played that. You're playing that on a PS5.
I am.
Sonic X Shadow Generations. We heard of a lot of people like, I don't think it's going to play very well on the Switch, so I'll get it on something else.
Right.
So this was just kind of like a widespread story this year of like, the Switch is starting to show its age. These games are feeling a little bit creaky. So when you had the opportunity to play something elsewhere, a lot of people took that opportunity.
Yeah, and there's that other competition too. Like Balatro came out on mobile, for example, and that dominated, I think, people's preferred way to play. Whereas that game would have been perfect for Switch.
Yeah.
But then since it was not exclusive,
right.
It was just out everywhere, and then people just, most people, myself included, I had the Switch version, but I immediately tossed that to the side and was playing the mobile version instead. The mobile version is
the best way to play.
And it's the best way to play. So it is really interesting because usually I would prefer to play anything on Switch.
Yeah.
Like that was always my first choice. But now when someone asks like, what platform do you want to play this on? Like I really do have to think about it and have to weigh the different, options.
When it's not exclusive, you have a lot of options. Like PlayStation Portal. Sony just came out and said this has been a huge hit, this PlayStation Portal. People love the PlayStation Portal.
I love the PlayStation Portal.
You are now an owner. So
I'm an owner and a lover.
Again, like for the people who want to be handheld, there's other options for that.
Exactly.
There's all these, Steam Deck type devices.
So many now.
That are out there. Yeah. And these games are just widely available.
And for you too, like you have a Steam Deck, and a lot of times, Anton Blast is a great example of that. A lot of times, these big indie games, they will prioritize Steam because that is the premier platform that they're developing on, and they're doing a lot of the early access work on Steam.
Yeah.
And so yes, Anton Blast missed Switch, but does it really matter? It's too bad, but they have it it's out on Steam and people are playing it on Steam. So, and people with Steam Decks and other ways to play it, like that's not a problem for them.
Totally.
They're not missing it.
Right.
So,
Back to the first party list. Nintendo always would have a couple games that would be in the Game of the Year conversation because they'd just be that good.
Yeah.
There's really nothing this year. I mean, I think, in terms of people if you're doing like a top 10 list, I think you'll get a smattering of games from here on this. But like in terms of something that's really contending for like the top 2 or 3 slots, It's kind of not there this year.
It's kind of not there this year, and also they just have unfortunate timing because Astrobot came out this year, which is, you know, in Game of the Year conversations where Nintendo would have otherwise had no competition. Like, we joke around about this all the time, but in the family game category, which Nintendo usually either has shoe-in won that category each year, or they basically dominated every nomination in that category. Not the case this year, you know?
Right.
And likely, Astrobot's probably going to beat them in that category.
Yeah.
So to see a list of games from Nintendo, and then coming to the end of the year and thinking about Game of the Year conversations and you know, awards and stuff like that, and kind of see them really far away from getting into that conversation, it is a little bit revealing of the time and place we are now.
And now the counter to that point, though, is like,
who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
But B, looking at this list of games, were they even trying to, or did they have that aspiration in mind? Or was it like, let's release a bunch of like solid, you know, base hit style games instead of going for the home run?
Yeah, they're doing option B.
Yes.
Because they know they can't. They're saving their guns, you know, they're saving their energy for the next thing.
I'm gonna keep throwing baseball lingo at you. Which of these games is the ninth inning sacrifice fly to win the game?
I don't know what that means. Is it the beer inning?
No. The what? After
inning?
the seventh inning stretch.
The beer inning.
Yes, that's when you send in MEO to close the game out and get the save. Yeah.
When do we sing the song?
They play the Metallica song and he comes out and he gets the save.
Yeah. When we play the song, we sing the song, and then when the beer inning is. That's all I know about baseball.
See, I was joking that with my new hair, I look like a middle school baseball coach.
I don't know what that means.
Now I'm going to start throwing baseball phrases at you.
Start chewing gum.
That's what I have. Give me some big league chew here. Anything else you want to say about the game's output for, you know, first party, otherwise? So there was no Pokemon game.
No Pokemon
this year.
game.
That's a bit unusual.
Yeah.
No Kirby game was either announced or released.
Yep.
This year, which there had been so many Kirby games, there's always something, you know, Kirby happening.
Yeah.
Just a lot of the usual characters, players, just kind of not there this year.
Right. Saving it for the next thing, for sure.
Sure.
Obviously, you know, heavy on remakes.
Yeah, so let's see how many of these. 1, 2, 3. 3?
Yeah.
3 of the big first-party games?
Yeah.
Remakes? Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, heavier on the... I mean, they have a Donkey Kong remake coming out in January as well.
Yes,
so
yes.
The next game after Brothership is another remake. Which is what they have to do, right? It's reasonable given where they are. It's what they have to do. I'm glad they have these remakes, honestly, to sort of tide them over. But it doesn't hit right as a brand new game, obviously. So you're just gonna get like a more muted experience overall. Even if the remake is incredible, like Paper Mario was an incredible remake, but it just doesn't feel as like exciting, you know?
Right.
The other thing that I will say that I think Nintendo did well is releasing sort of more niche games like MEO. MEO, I think, out of this list of games, is probably near the top or at the top for me in terms of Nintendo games I've played this year. And I feel like that game would not have come out in a different year. Like it kind of existed in this year because they were wanting to dedicate some time and space to these smaller experiences. You know, obviously, this is a very niche franchise that it was a fun way for them to bring it back in this way. So, and I never played a Famicom Detective Club game before, and having being able to play it with MEO was incredible. So, I'm glad that they did that, you know. And if the goal was to use less resources to make these types of games, I'm really glad this game was made. I wish there was more games like that. So instead of the remakes, instead of the whatever, maybe just make more games in the scope of MEO. But yeah, I mean that is very scrappy of them to sort of figure out a way to release games like that in this year. So
they did take the chance to be a bit more experimental with some of these releases. Remember all the stuff they did with MEO, teasing that.
Exactly. I think the whole thing with MEO was awesome.
That game Princess Peach and Mario vs. Donkey Kong all had demos, varying degrees of quality of demos. Like the MEO one had the time release, which was a smart idea.
Yeah.
The Mario vs. Donkey Kong one was bafflingly terrible in terms of the
Peach one
content that they put in there. That was another strange one.
Yeah, those two demos made me not want to play the game at all.
Yeah.
So that was not great.
But unusual for that many first-party games to even get demos.
That's right.
In the first place. So again, I think they knew exactly what they had to work with this year, and it's like let's make the most of it and just kind of get through. Let's get through this year.
Yeah.
While working on some real big stuff in the background.
Right, and they had a sort of a 3-game whammy for the important holiday season. So they had Zelda in September, and then Mario Party in October, and then Mario and Luigi Brothership in November. They did the typical thing of saving their like biggest releases, the most like notable characters and franchises for the end of the year. So that was good. That was smart. Zelda is a new game. Echoes of Wisdom is a new game, so that was nice to get another like new, fresh Zelda game this year. I think this is probably the one that stands out the most as like the most exciting new thing.
Yeah, that's a good point of like kind of, honing in on some specific like fan requests.
Yeah.
Like, more Famicom Detective Club, sure, we can do that. Oh, that Zelda game you've been wanting, here you go.
Yeah.
A new Princess Peach game, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Here, check this out.
Right.
So, but again, these were not, 10 out of 10 games, but they did kind of, they were all solid in their own way.
They met sort of different
and they had these certain
niches.
things going for it that maybe elevated them a little bit more than they would have otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
The return of Mario and Luigi, also on the bingo list.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Entertainment, let's talk about that. So a shorter list, but some really impactful things. We had to remind ourselves of when the Zelda movie was announced.
It was last year.
That was last year, so that is not on the list.
We did not add this to
not
the
on
list.
the list.
Yes. However, though.
But the Mario movie sequel was announced on Mario Day. That is coming April 2026.
Yeah.
Which probably
means before we know it.
Probably means next year we're going to start to
see some trailers,
get some casting, some trailers, some stuff. That's going to be exciting.
That's going to be really cool.
The Nintendo Museum in Japan officially opened. Nintendo Music was announced and launched on the same day.
Yeah.
Very recently. And the Donkey Kong Country part of Super Nintendo World in Japan finally, after so many delays, opens
like last week,
and then they also, this is going into next year, but the Orlando Park, they confirmed all the dates and the details for that. I rate them quite a bit higher in this category.
Yes, I think they did really well. I mean, this is that goal that they have of continue to transform into a bigger entertainment company. Obviously, they're riding high on the success of the Mario movie, the success of the theme parks from 2023. That was a big entertainment year for them to really solidify themselves as like a juggernaut in this category. They're doing other things. It's not video games, right? And yeah, it confirming that this, hit Mario movie that everybody loved that made them $1 billion is coming back, and it is coming back relatively soon is smart. Strike while the iron is hot, as they say. So I think that was Mr. Miyamoto was just out and about with all of these things, except for Nintendo Music. He was the face of it. He really is like living that like new sort of job that he has, that he wants to do, of doing all these entertainment things and not the game things anymore. So that's really interesting as well. But yeah, I think they did quite well in this category.
I think more attention needs to be paid to the fact that this all happened like in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That was kind of when the ball started rolling on this, and there was a lot of ramp up where nothing outwardly was happening that people knew of. But for them to be at this point, 10 years later, and for all of these things to be, some sort of win in their own way is really impressive.
Yeah.
And, they haven't had a fall on your face moment. Everything seems to be, I think we've all got kind of a question mark about the Zelda movie, but it's like, this all seems like the right thing for them to be doing. It's done in a Nintendo way that makes sense and makes it feel unique. And I mean, this is a pretty significant list of things. It's not as long as the games, but all of these things are bigger than any of those one games, and they have potentially these long-term impact that they can keep building on. So I think this area is just a huge win for them this year.
Yeah, and it depends on how you look at it. I know a lot of people are a little bit fearful that Nintendo is splitting their attention and resources into entertainment things. Some people don't like that. Some people want Nintendo to focus just on games because, that's why they engage with Nintendo. So it is a different path that the company is going down, like splitting their attention between, games and entertainment and maybe even some other things in the future. But this is, it really has been this like long thing in the making. I mean, we were there when this was being spun up and when it was becoming a priority, and the shift of even internally thinking of the company not as a video game company, but as an entertainment company, and getting every employee into the mindset of like, no, you are here to provide entertaining experiences. It doesn't matter which form it takes. It could be the form of a game. It could be the form of a movie. It could be the form of a theme park. It doesn't matter. That was a big shift in just the DNA of the company, and they have really they have stuff to show for it now that's like very significant, that have been extremely successful. So I think that this just boisters them to want to do more and more of this in the future. Now, how that changes the company, we don't know. We have no crystal ball. But like in 30 years, is the company going to be mostly entertainment?
Made them a lot of money last year. That's what it did.
That's what it did. But yeah, you never know. Like in the year 20XX, is it going to be more entertainment and just a little bit of video games? Maybe you get one game a year, but you have 35 theme parks. I don't think so, but you never know. What the future holds. This definitely seems to be an area where they are, making tons of money, doing really well. They're getting like a very positive reinforcement from being successful in this area, and truly, like, this is an important point. Is this is Mr. Miyamoto's like baby, this entertainment side of the business, and he gets to do what he wants, and everybody has to do what he says. So that is why I think the company has, really like gone like full force into this area. Is because he says you have to, and I want to, so do it. And it's just interesting, that when Mr. Miyamoto started out at Nintendo, he's like, I want to make a game with a plumber, and they were like, okay. Now he's like, I want to make a movie, and they're like, okay. I want to open a museum, okay. I want to do these things, okay. So it's like, it's at his like whim, So it's interesting.
And a lot of some of these things we know are going to improve with time, like the the Nintendo Museum. We've been a bit critical of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we both know like that's going to get better.
Yeah.
As they kind of figure out what people want to see and get feedback and iron out some of those kinks. And Nintendo Music is still extremely early, and that's just a library that's going to grow and grow.
Yeah.
And I think when we did our reaction video, like the day that first came out, I think we said it was their most important launch of the year. I still feel that way.
I still think so too.
About that.
Huge opportunity.
I mean, just look at how they finally solved this years-long conundrum around music of how do we release this music. This was such a sore point for fans.
Right,
and obviously not everything's there, but they now have their official thing to do it. Just completely bucking the trend of, hey, Apple, hey, Spotify, go kick rocks, we're going to do this ourselves, is really like...
Nintendo.
It's a very Nintendo way to be like, yeah, we don't want to deal with these other partners. We'll do it ourselves. We'll literally just do it ourselves. So that's great. And yeah, I just think the impact on the company is going to be so big as the years go and that library grows, and they think of even more ways
to like integrate
and things they can do with it, ways to integrate it into everything else. So
totally,
I still love Nintendo Music a lot.
Yeah, I think it's just a huge opportunity for them. Like they launched it, with some really great features, with an exciting like prospect, but the potential has yet to be seen truly for this, and I think that's just a big growing thing that they can continue to like just improve upon, which is cool. And yeah, even with, Super Nintendo World and other things, like, there is so much growth potential in all of these 4 like big entertainment things. Movies, obviously, they're going to make more movies. That's pretty obvious. Yeah, the museum is going to continue to improve, and they're gonna continue to hopefully add more stuff into that museum, make it even better. Nintendo Music we talked about is going to get better. This Super Nintendo World stuff, they're probably going to do more there too.
It's only in 2 locations right now, and they have a lot more that they've said that they're going to be opening. So.
Yeah, and we didn't even put this on here, but they also have the San Francisco Nintendo store opening.
Oh yeah. Right,
which was also early.
Right.
I just remembered this right now, and I was thinking about like how amazing the Kyoto and Tokyo stores were that we went to when we were in Japan, and so they have this huge opportunity with merch.
You know what all these things have in common? They're not in Europe. Once again, I apologize to the wonderful people in Europe.
You are on a bank holiday. You're unavailable to negotiate these contracts. So
that sucks.
Don't go on holiday.
Do something in Europe, please.
Maybe get back to work, and we can open some stuff.
Really harsh on Europe. Okay, so all of these things. These are all the long-term things that we've been hearing about, and I do wonder, like, what is there some next phase of this? Obviously, movies, TV is a big opportunity, like doing some sort of series and that. There have been some, like, rumors, hints of maybe this is happening.
Yeah. Something with, like, a big, Netflix series.
Right, but it feels like it's like now we have reached this point where all these things have finally come to fruition. Yeah, I'm sure they've already got it mapped out, but, like, when do we start to hear about it? This is a 2024 grade, though, so I'm not too concerned about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't try and wiggle your way out of a grade this year because next year I'm going to do this.
No, there's no bonus assignment here.
No extra
You've
credit.
already turned in your stuff.
There's no extra credit.
Yeah, it's too late now for extra credit.
Non-game things, we had just a couple odds and ends that were worth talking about. Alarmo.
What a surprise that was.
Yeah.
We have ours all set up in the office.
I mean, those couple days of Alarmo when that got announced, and when we got one, like for us, like those were some of the most popular videos that we did
all year
long.
Yeah.
So I think that speaks to just how people were kind of in a bit of a rut with Nintendo this year.
We were bored.
And hoping for something that would...
After the 3rd remake, we were a little bored.
Hoping for something that would excite them, even if it's not, exactly the thing that they wanted. And I think it did that. And obviously the I don't know if you can... Just the interest in that is obviously not what it was. But I think it was also a breath of air to just know, like, okay, Nintendo can still do these weird, surprising things.
Exactly. I think the vibe was a little stale, let me just say. Like, we were getting to, like, the doldrums. Yes. It was, like, the doldrums of, like, end of summer. Like, we were getting kind of, like, bored. It was just feeling like nothing was happening. I think all of us were so tired, too, of those Switch 2 rumors that were just, like, plaguing every conversation. And remember, there was that rumor that were, like, Nintendo's announcing something on October 2nd or whatever, and it ended up being Alarmo, which was a huge lull. But I think it just broke everyone out of that like stupor. We were in it too. We were so bored. We were like, every day you would just see more and more stupid rumors, and then you would be like back to being bored. And Alarmo came out of nowhere, and it was a silly, dumb thing. But it definitely surprised and delighted everyone. So if that was the goal of this thing, check. Congratulations, you did it.
In the grand scheme of things, like sales-wise, it's close to zero for them.
Nothing. Yeah.
But in terms of what it signals and like what the company, still tooling away at something with a small team in the background, I think that's more what people were excited about.
Exactly.
Of like, oh, thank goodness.
It's like a little bit of that Nintendo magic, as they say.
Yeah.
Like it's still alive somewhere, even
I think that was a fair question to ask of, the company's kind of getting a bit more like formulaic in terms of, and still the quality's still good, still liking it, but that kind of out of left field aspect of Nintendo that everybody loved kind of felt like it was maybe fading away. Mm-hmm. So I think that was just so welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
We also had just the continued dominance of the Nintendo and Lego partnership here. The Zelda Finally got some Zelda Legos.
Big Deku Tree, Zelda stuff.
All these ridiculous Mario World Legos, the giant Yoshi shooting the tongue out.
That's pretty
cool. There weren't too many other things that we could put in this category, but they do continue to be very aggressive in terms of finding these partners to do these things with, and I think they do a really good job.
They really do.
With all of that, let's put the San Francisco store here because we need a place to put it.
Exactly. The store, this idea of merch. Stuff.
Yeah.
We saw it in full effect when we were in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Like the power of Nintendo merch. You can slap a Splatoon logo on anything.
They're not doing that though.
They're not doing that. But they're like you can make anything. You can make so much stuff that you never thought you could. With Nintendo IP, which is cool. I'm saying this as a compliment. I do want the full set of Splatoon camping gear. I don't go camping, but I think it looks cool, And people, judging by the thousands of people that were in that store, it's quite popular. So
yeah.
They got a big opportunity. I think
in the finance. I think they talked about how they've had.
That was the one thing that was up.
Yes, pop-up stores they also talked about.
Yeah.
So I think they did have some of those in Europe. That was kind of their answer of we had a pop-up store for 24 hours somewhere.
Awesome.
But yeah, I do wonder what the strategy of that is, because obviously they're not trying to be like the Apple store where it's the one on every street corner.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a big part of this. Put it in these highly public, high traffic places so
it's
that
a brand
people can have these
too.
associations. Right, it continues to be a marketing opportunity, marketing / exposure.
You want to attach it to these big cities, like Nintendo New York.
Yeah, in the right place in those cities too.
Nintendo Kyoto.
We're in Rockefeller Center. Everybody's going there to see that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
or in San Francisco, it's in Union Square, which is everybody's going to come and see that. So. It is more than just a let's sell you a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a brand play.
Yeah.
But it isn't. I do see selling you this stuff also as a major, business initiative and revenue driver for them too, because they did note that merch was up, selling the stuff. People are buying the stuff, apparently. So
merch and Hanafuda cards to the moon.
To the moon.
All right, let's talk. So they, in terms of these were not things that were released. These were not products. These were not physical locations. But they did do a lot of work setting up 2025. Yeah. So we do need to talk about that. So even though these things are not going to get paid off until next year, we do have to account for this in our grading. Mm-hmm. So they did confirm the existence of Nintendo Switch successor.
Yes.
That was confirmed. They also, out of the blue, let us know that it's going to be backwards compatible. Mm-hmm. We know the time frame in which it will be announced, which is the end of this fiscal year.
We don't know. No, we know quite a lot,
we know a fair amount.
Yeah.
Metroid Prime 4. We've seen it.
Yes, it exists.
Yes, it does. We know a fair bit about that, certainly more than the literally zero that we knew about it before, and we know that it exists. Wow. Pokemon Legends ZA, that was announced at Pokemon Day. They've gone completely dark on that.
But that exists?
That exists. Mm-hmm. That's on the docket as a Nintendo Switch game.
Yes.
For next year. Maybe it won't be until the next Pokemon Day that we see anything more for
Well, Pokemon Day's early in the year.
It is.
So you might see it
We're
again.
We're about 3 months away from that.
There you go.
So
That's exciting.
Sure. Mr. Sakurai confirmed that he's working on a new game that he said may be getting announced. I forget his exact phrasing, but maybe it didn't sound like it was going to be forever before we learn more about that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And he's shut down his YouTube channel to work on said game.
That's another, big team, big guy who's working on another big game. So this has been a real thread the needle situation for them.
Yeah.
But did they do it?
I think yes. I think they did do it. I think that they were able to talk about the things in a way where it still makes you want to continue to play your Switch. For example, this backwards compatibility. Why did they talk about that during that financial meeting, right in the smack middle of the holiday season? Because they want to keep you buying the Switch games, obviously. people are moving on, right, from buying these games. They're like, oh, I'll wait for the next thing. Well, if they announce backwards compatibility, then you don't have to stop buying the Switch games. You can keep buying them. And then you can play them on the next thing. So this is like a prime example of threading the needle, where they announce something about the next hardware that everyone's been clamoring and asking about, but it's to their benefit because now you're just going to be paying them more money to buy the software. So they did a good job, I think, with that. They did a very good job. Yeah. And announcing the existence of it is good because the rumors were just getting way out of control. Announcing a general time frame too was a good idea, I think, because again, daily, can there be more rumors about when it's going to get announced, when it's going to get released? Like, they're just like, shut up. We'll tell you the time frame, so you'll shut up and focus on the Switch that's out there now. So I think they did quite a good job here.
Yeah, I think this was also another big win for them this year. They did, they've clearly, taken the approach of like, we're going to stretch this out as long as we possibly can. But in that sense, it was a real kind of bend but don't break situation where they would give you just enough info to be like, okay, I know there's more coming. Yeah. I vaguely know when. I feel knowledgeable about like what the somewhat upcoming future.
Well, as a person that's buying this stuff,
I have confidence to continue buying. But not in a way where it's like I'm shutting it down and I'm just waiting. I'm saving my pennies.
Yeah, you feel like an informed consumer.
Right.
Like you can make some decisions for yourself based on the information that you have.
Yeah, and Metroid and Pokemon, again, a lot of people, maybe ourselves included, feel like these are going to be games on both
the dual SKU
on both systems. Yeah. But they did use these strategically. It's like, hey, this is a way that we can get you excited now for something that maybe is not going to get paid off until the next system. But we don't have to tell you that now.
Right.
It's a Switch game.
It's a Switch game.
Because it probably will be.
It is.
And it'll be on another thing too.
Yeah, exactly.
So they use those strategically to get a bump of excitement, a bump of interest. And not have these, specifically in Metroid, it was getting it to a point where it's like, did this get canceled again? Did you start over again?
That was the thing with Metroid, is like,
it was getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, people were asking some like pretty big questions, like because it had such a rocky development cycle already. It's like, did something else happen?
Right.
The other thing that they sort of were using as a way to thread the needle is the way that they were talking about Switch 2 and backwards compatibility with Mr. Furukawa in these really serious financial things. And it wasn't like a big marketing message. It wasn't like something that was very like facing the fans. It was very much something for the shareholders, or positioned in a way for shareholders. Obviously, the news was going to get out either way. But just like the backwards compatibility thing, this is Furukawa was on like their IR Twitter channel. It wasn't like on a mass, communication channel for Nintendo. So they were really trying hard to like keep it in this little box on this side and talk about the stuff that needs to be talked about, but really keeping the more like consumer message focused on the here and now. Yeah. So they did a good job.
Yeah. The one thing where I might have a bit of criticism is they've basically been playing defense for the past year, and come next year they're going to go back on the offensive. And I do think there are some things like they kind of need to get back in the rhythm of doing to kind of spin up the marketing machine again and make sure that everybody can focus on that. Here's an example. All the time we talk about eventually Doug Bowser is going to have to talk to some media. And when he does, those media are going to have a saved up list
like 300
of like
questions.
All these well, what about this? What about this? All these things that happened in the past year that they have not had a chance to ask him. And all he's going to want to talk about is Switch 2. You can't just shut down and say like, no. Ask me. Here's the question I want you to ask me.
No, yeah, exactly.
Like maybe he should have done a year-end interview or two with somebody just to get those out of the way.
Yeah, to clear the deck.
Right. So it's like,
say.
All right.
Yeah.
You got rid of that. Next year, you've only got questions for me about the Switch 2 because we've been through all that. That's in the past. We handled all of that.
Right.
We got
a lot of like lingering baggage now.
Because it's like, going from 0 to 60 on this stuff, you need a little bit of time. You need a little bit of time to warm it up. So I do wonder about their ability to do that.
And I want them to like they've been kind of, they're doing a little dance right now, right? They're dancing around a lot of stuff, right? And they've been doing that for a long time, probably for like over a year. They've been doing the dance, and you can get used to doing the dance.
Yeah.
And when it's time for you to like come out sort of like blazing with cool actual news, you might feel a little scared.
Right.
I hope that they don't feel scared. Like I hope that they haven't been like so settled in their ways of sort of managing these things all at the same time and being so careful about not saying too much about whatever. I hope that they give the next thing like the biggest fanfare they can.
Yeah. If you've been a hermit living in the woods for 3 years,
and then all of a sudden you're at the Grammys,
and then you've got to go to the big city. It's like, well, maybe I should try on this suit one time and know how I remember how to tie a tie before I go walk out in there.
Yeah, and get used to being in a crowd again.
Yeah,
because it's going to be scary.
Exactly.
And you're not used to it.
Yeah, you might react to it differently if you've been away from it.
And you
for
also
so long.
could be a little bit detached from people too, because you've been so careful to stay away from everybody that's asking you all the scary questions.
Right.
Or the anticipation, the build up, their expectation is so high now too because of the long silence. Now you really have to do a thing to like pay it off. So that's tough for them to be able to like kind of wake that back up again. So I think January, February, they're gonna need some.
That's the one thing in this category that I was like, maybe they could have done a couple things there, but
yeah.
All right, I think it is time for us to give a grade. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go first because it seems like you've really been saving up for some on blast moment here.
Get in the corner.
Standing in the corner.
Just kidding.
I think it's a B. If this was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and all we had to go with on the games, that would have been a much lower score. And I also think the game output would have been significantly less. Instead of 13 things, it might have been like 5 things. And that would have been a bad year.
Yeah.
And we've been around games enough to have seen some of those transition years like really just be like
terrible,
a big nothing where you're twiddling your thumbs. Really it's like, are we there yet? No, we just got to kind of endure this.
Yeah, and it feels like you're enduring it too. You really feel it.
And there was a little bit of enduring in terms of just the scrutiny and the interest in the Switch 2, but they certainly had a lot going on still. And I do think the entertainment side, the smart things they did setting up for the future, for me they bump it up to a B. I think, again, this company is more than just the output of the games that are released that factor into this. So I'm going B.
Okay. I'm going C.
All right.
Yeah, I think that
average.
It was very average. I think if we there was highs and lows, right? The entertainment stuff definitely a high for them. Like thank God they had the entertainment stuff because without it, it would have been really not a C.
Yeah.
The game side was very average, if not below average. And they are trying their best to set up good momentum for the future, but they definitely are facing some headwinds. And they're going to be facing a lot more than just like, am I ready to do this? They're going to be facing a lot of challenges for that next thing because the Switch generation was just so successful. Like that is just, the bar is so high. Like they have made their own impossible thing a threshold to pass over.
Yeah.
So that's hard. That's gonna be hard. And they did do well in some areas, but I think if you average it sort of all out based on the highs and lows, it is a C from my perspective. But not to say that they it was like, oh no, like Nintendo sucked this year. Not to say that at all. I think there were definitely like really cool things that Nintendo did, really great games that came out. I'm definitely very optimistic for the future. I think next year is going to be really fun. And I'm excited to see what they do, but I think overall this year, they way to go. Hang in there with a C, I think is pretty great anyway.
Again, as people who make a weekly podcast that's mostly focused on Nintendo, like we felt that kind of lack of interest that had been there in the previous years, the lack of excitement, just from the community in general. So
Absolutely.
I think that's an understandable grade.
Yeah.
Well, we handed the red pen to our Patreon subscribers, asked them to give Nintendo a grade. 8% said they get an A.
Okay.
49% said B.
Okay.
38 were with you and said a C.
Yeah.
4% said D. And 1%. That tough 1%.
Who was the one person that gave it an F?
F.
Oh no!
Why does it go from D to F? Where's E?
Where's E?
I've always wondered that.
Teachers, tell us in the comments.
I really would like to know that.
We have a teacher.
We have. I'm sure we have plenty. We have plenty of
Please
teachers,
tell us.
so they better set us straight. The Kager said, "It stinks to say, but it's definitely a C year. I like some of the creativity and ideas they came up with. Princess Peach Showtime, Echoes of Wisdom, and Brothership. Unfortunately, the execution wasn't great. The hardware is really showing its age, and even games that should be running no problem are having serious technical issues. Of course, this is to be expected in the Switch's final year, but it was pretty disappointing overall. There were some bright spots. Thousand Year Door Remake and Mario Party Jamboree were both fantastic, but I think for the first time in a long time, Nintendo won't be dominating my GOTY list."
Yeah, I see it.
Kyle LaBeouf says, "I gave Nintendo a D."
Whoa. Don't get Kyle LaBeouf as a professor.
Even their own sales figures and metrics show that their transition period has gone on far longer than the market wants to tolerate.
It's true.
Subpar releases and remasters can only carry you so far. The pressure is on for Nintendo to deliver with a new console release. A sluggish launch will put Nintendo in a precarious position with both its customers and its investors, regardless of Nintendo's own lack of deference towards both.
Yeah, very well said.
All right. And then YU says, "If you just take their game releases and other endeavors in a vacuum and compare them to other years, it's not a great grade. But given the context that this was probably the Switch's last full year, I upped the letter grade higher than I would have. Previous consoles' final years would be lucky to have a game lineup like this, especially in the second half. That plus Donkey Kong and Nintendo Music also upping the grade a little bit makes me say B."
That's kind of like what you
kind of along the lines of my thinking too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, it really is interesting. We have a very dominant Nintendo community.
Yes.
And seeing them sort of agree with our grades just makes you think that like a lot of us are kind of feeling the same stuff, right?
Definitely.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've got some new games that we're playing, but before we move on, we got another sponsor to shout out. This podcast is sponsored by Factor.
Thank you.
We just got past Thanksgiving, in which I literally spent all day in
all
a kitchen,
week,
all day, all week, all whatever you want to say, hours and hours toiling in a kitchen.
I'm over it.
Guess what?
Over it.
I'm getting some Factor this week.
I know. I was like, I'm so over
Forget it.
I don't want to
cook something. No.
I don't want to stand in the kitchen anymore. Yeah, Factor is so great. There are so many meals, 35 different delicious meals every week, and you can have them ready to eat. 2 minutes in the microwave, they're never frozen.
That's right.
And it's delicious, it's wonderful.
Yes, they've also been loading up on the wintry meals, which are perfect this time of year. And yeah, like depending on what kind of like diet you're looking to follow, like they've got all that figured out as well. But yeah, it takes so long to cook food. And then how long did it take you to eat your Thanksgiving
dinner? Oh my gosh,
dinner?
it was like,
what was I doing?
It was like 8 hours of cooking and 1 hour of eating.
It's like, it's fine that we do this once a year, but like the time spent versus the time like enjoying, the ratio got a little out of whack.
And you know what, I'm actually like slightly tired of just eating too, because I've like overindulged so much. So it's been nice with Factor because they have juices and smoothies and stuff. Sometimes I just want like something light.
Well, that's good.
So that's been nice too.
Yes.
It's like I'm over like sitting down to this huge meal. I'm done with that right now. I need a break.
Tell me about it.
Right?
So head to factormeals.com/50Kit and Krysta and use code 50Kit and Krysta to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50Kit and Krysta at factormeals.com/50Kit and Krysta to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active.
We'll put the link right over here in our QR code that you can scan and in the description below.
Quite the list of games we're playing.
Yeah.
Let's pick up where we left off with Black Myth Wukong, a game that we both got pretty into over our break.
Yeah, I have made it to the second chapter now. Yeah. I am now in this like desert area.
I'm in that place too now.
Cool, okay. I don't like this area as much as the first one.
I agree with you.
The first one was like so beautiful because it really did look like one of those like calligraphy or like those brush Chinese paintings. And the environment was just so lovely. But this one is like not as fun to look at. But the gameplay is still super fun. And definitely a difficulty spike
I think
as well.
the difficulty really ramped up in the second area.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Like, I was able to, I mean, you have to be, even like you were saying, like, oh, like in that first area, the sort of the normal, bread and butter enemies were pretty easy to take down.
Yeah.
Like, these are pretty tough. Like, they got some arrow guys that really
the arrow,
get you.
yeah, there's a lot of situations where, like, you are in kind of an arena to fight this guy, but you're surrounded by
fiery
like 5 or 6
things.
arrow guys, and they can really hurt you.
It's bad.
And sometimes it's like, I don't know how I would get to this guy. So you kind of have to dance around while the arrows rain down.
Yeah, I figured it out eventually,
it's
but
pretty
it took me
tricky.
a couple of tries. It
Yeah.
definitely took me a couple of tries. The bosses in that area are also pretty tough. I got stuck on
Which ones did you do in that? Because there were 3 kind of right away.
that I was totally fine with.
Okay.
I was able to get through those. I'm now in like the final sort of boss of that area, I believe, which is in the big tower.
Oh,
it's
the final boss of the second chapter?
I believe it's
I don't think
close
it is.
to it.
Knowing you, I don't think it is.
It's a big tiger.
Oh.
And it's drinking out of a pool of blood.
Oh,
Very
wow.
cool fighting
Wow,
environment.
okay.
You go into this big like pagoda kind of thing.
Oh, that's neat.
And I'm getting worked though.
Yeah.
I had to leave to do something else, to level up a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm wrapping up my time with this game for now because, the difficulty spike was very
Tough,
real.
yeah.
And I was just, I want to play all these other games for Game
Yeah.
of the Year. So it's like, I have a good taste of this. Like,
Yeah.
I understand now why this game got
Nominated,
these
yeah.
Game of the Year nods, which is what I wanted to
absolutely
do
great.
in the first place.
Yeah.
And at a minimum, I can just really look back and enjoy that first chapter. Kind of like Baldur's Gate. I love Baldur's Gate. And I always said
That first act
that
is
first
so good,
actor
right?
of Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate 1 is so good. So I was
Just
like,
play that
I
again.
can just look at this first chapter of Wukong as like this really, really good kind of like 10 to 12 hour chunk of this game that
Yeah.
can kind of stand on its own in some ways.
Absolutely. And I love the mythology that you get at the end of the first chapter.
I was kind of surprised at that.
That was really cool.
You get like a couple minutes long like animation
Yeah.
of going into a lot of detail of the story
Yeah.
of what happened and kind of why this final boss got transformed into this animal
yeah.
creature. And honestly, some of that stuff was going over my head, but
Exactly.
it was
I really
very well done.
appreciated that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done. It just, again, the game was like high on vibes.
Yes. Yes.
And really, I really loved it because it just, it's part of my culture as well. So I love to learn more about that. I feel like we don't get exposed to it as much in the
Right.
in the West. So I'm always appreciative when I can learn a thing or two. And I also put the game down for a little bit, moving on to a different game for a while, but I'm definitely going back to it. I think I can beat that tiger boss. So
Yeah.
it's like one of those kind of Elden Ring, Souls types game where you
Test of stubbornness,
you
which
can
is
go,
what you excel
I'm
at.
very good at this. You can go back and like level up though
Right.
a bit more and go back to it. So I think I'm confident that I can get past it.
Yeah. I started again as part of my end of year studying Stellar Blade, which is a game that I got on a Black Friday sale. And I'll be honest, I'm still very early in this game. I'm maybe like sub 5 hours. And I just have recently gotten through one of the big early bosses and kind of the first proper area. And this game is a little bit tricky to play after Wukong because they're similar games where it's using like a dodging, parrying stuff, but the timing is just different enough.
Oh no!
That it kind of messes with your head. It's like, wait, what game am I playing right now? And when do I need to push the button to?
How interesting!
I actually saw that as kind of a common piece of feedback on Stellar Blade, which was like when you start, the dodging window feels very tight, and I guess eventually in the skill tree you get something that makes it more lenient, which is interesting. Because I was like, God, I feel like I can't get these dodges
To line up
just right. Unlike Wukong, you can just block. In Wukong, you have to dodge. Everything is it's all dodging. There's no blocking. So that's what it is. But
I always forget to block.
so this is a character action game.
Is there a story?
Yeah. It's kind of like a future. It's in the
like
future.
A dystopian future.
I need a bit more downloads on what exactly is happening in the story, but it's like mankind has been kind of wiped out. There's these really like gnarly looking, gross alien things that you're fighting, but you do kind of go back to, I don't know if it's Earth.
Are you a human or a robot?
Well, you might be like some sort of a cybernetic human.
Okay.
because one of the things you get are these like spinal implants.
So it's kind of like Cyberpunk.
It's something like that, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because if you look closely, and I've had to look closely at this character model for certain categories,
Yes.
You do see like, oh, there's something that looks a little bit robotic about her in spots.
Okay.
Yes. But you do go to a planet. I don't know if it's Earth or if it's another planet, but it's like, oh, there was a human civilization here, and it looks like there's buildings and stuff, but it's like been hundreds of years since, and it's been overrun,
falling apart. Yeah,
it's been overrun by these really gross aliens.
Really?
they're gross.
Nasty.
They're gross.
Scary?
Kind of scary.
Really?
Does
the game feel like horror survival?
No, because it's very action heavy.
You're very capable.
Like it's kind of like Devil May Cry /
What kind of
Bayonetta.
weapons do you have?
Right now I have a sword. I think
Sword.
I saw later on you do get some sort of a gun.
Okay.
But I think it's stellar blades.
Do you have a party?
No, you have a little robot friend who's kind of flying around with you.
Okay.
But it's really kind of like a solo, and there's like a guy in your ear who's talking with you.
Okay. And it's just that main character that we've seen.
Well, she does seem to be part of like this bigger group of hot fighting women.
Oh,
because in the very beginning, it's like you're all like beaming down to the ground, and like,
it's just all hot.
There's another like even hotter girl who saves you, but then she dies, which was that was a really sad moment for me.
Oh no, a hotter one dies?
Yes, an even hotter one dies.
That's so sad.
It's a shame. It was a great shame.
What happened?
You don't want to know. It was ugly. She died.
Oh no.
She got messed up, but. Something that is interesting about this is like I do really like the general vibe of this game. Like it does have this kind of futuristic feel to it.
Like a Neon City Blade.
But
kind
like
of
the music, the music is really good, and it's kind of like modern, but also kind of like low key to it. It's very vibesy.
I like that.
I think you would like it. So it kind of helps balance out like
the crazy.
If they went with different music, like this could have had a very different feel, like more of a horror feel, like you were saying, but like it definitely doesn't.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I am enjoying.
I envision like Stray, but with a hot girl.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I've not played this game.
Yeah, I think visually, again, I'm only in like the first main area, but I think there could be some similarities.
Yeah, it's like
I'll
that game.
Keep that in mind. I hadn't thought of that.
You think that game is scary? Like definitely, it could have leaned Stray. Could have leaned real horror with the face cat eating monsters. Mm-hmm. But because the city was so vibey, like it was okay.
Right. There are a lot of upgrades that you get the more you play, so I don't think I've really scratched the surface. I do really want to get at, because like there's a lot of people in our community as well who've said like, oh, this is my game of the year.
Yeah.
And I do kind of want to get to the point where I can like again really grasp like
why,
like what about this game like stands out so much, and I don't think I'm at that point yet, so I'm going to keep going with it. And I've done my studying for Bodhi. I think I've checked that box. I've got what I need to know. So tune back for Game of the Year in a couple weeks. When we'll talk about that in greater. Don't make me spill these beans.
Sweep.
Sweep.
Bodhi sweep.
Every entrant.
Sweep. What's her name?
Left butt cheek, right butt cheek. Eve.
Her name is Eve.
I think her name is Eve.
Eve.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a lot of. Like costumes you can get. I haven't gotten any costumes. You can adjust. Oh yeah, you can adjust the length of her ponytail if you'd like.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
That's something that you can do. No,
adjust the what?
No. But yeah, I mean, it feels a lot like this would have been like a really good like Xbox 360 generation game. And again, I think that's like part of like why this stood out is like. You see less and less games like this every year. Exactly. So, but it's kind of, again, that Baldur's Gate situation of like, wait, the audience still exists
and is hungry for it.
And likes games like this.
They want games like this.
So when they finally get a good one of those, it's there. I am playing the game in Korean because this is a Korean developed game. I'm trying to see more, because I went to Korea earlier this year, so I'm like trying to find more of the.
You were saying that when you were in Korea, you saw no advertisements for Stellar Blade.
And I was there like right around the time the game came out.
So weird.
So I do have that in the back of my mind. Like, can I see more of the Korean influence?
Yeah.
In this game, because obviously with Wukong, it's like, oh yeah, you can tell like
this
is like a Chinese-made game. I haven't seen too much of it yet, but I will keep looking.
Okay.
Dragon Quest 3 HD2D you started.
Yeah, I basically put down Wukong. So I beat Mario and Luigi, and then I put down Wukong so that I can try out Dragon Quest 3. We did play that first hour together on Switch. I am playing this game on PS5. We played this game on PS5 when we were at Tokyo Game Show.
Yes.
Which is why I wanted to play this game on PS5 because it's so beautiful and so smooth.
Yeah.
And so now I am. And I got that Portal, so now I can just have my cozy handheld Dragon Quest experience. I put a Christmas movie on last night. I got under the blanket on the couch.
Wow.
Dogs.
Okay.
Surrounded
Maybe
by...
you can stream something else on your phone, something else on your iPad. You can just be surrounded by streaming.
Oh, I would love that.
Yes.
I love to have
just
multiple
soak
screens.
these Wi-Fi beams into your body.
Please.
Soak up
give
the
it to
5G.
Me. Give it to me. Give it to me. But it was it's very cozy. I am about 6 hours in now. Yeah, I really got cozy last night. Maybe I'm a little less. Maybe like
6 hours.
5 hours.
Wow.
I played for a long time. Last night. I played from like 7 to midnight last night. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was really in. I was like really relaxed. I had a lot of fun.
It is relaxing. Yeah.
We played that first hour together. I got kind of a different beginning, which was interesting because you got the beginning.
Yes. I think that's basically you answer those questions.
The questions.
I think I saw somebody saying you get a different little intro scene.
Yeah.
Based on that.
So you got the one where you went to the desert and saw the guy that was like dying.
Right.
In the desert.
But at TGS we saw one where it was like you were a monster.
That's what I got.
You got that one.
I got the one where I'm the monster, and then I wanted to talk to somebody, but then I burned them.
Oh.
Like the button said talk.
And the fire just
shot out. That's how I feel when I talk to you. But I still got the great personality. It said I was an incredible person.
Well,
in short, you're an incredible person.
Guess what? They say that to everybody.
They don't. It's wrong.
I'm special.
They did it. I am. I'm an incredible... It said it to me 2 times.
Who said that? Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake?
Dracky?
Dracky.
They do have a difficulty setting that's Dracky Quest, which I think is hilarious.
Is that harder or easier?
That's easy.
Easy.
But I'm playing on normal. I'm playing the normal difficulty.
What is your battle speed? I need to know.
Ultra fast.
Ultra fast?
Oh, I'm keeping up.
Oh, wow.
Keeping up. You gotta pay attention.
Okay.
I am in sort of this, so I have gotten out of the first little island that you're on. I'm in like the main world map now.
Yep.
And I have reached this, my quest is to like go find this thief that's like stealing the treasure or whatever from that kingdom. But I've been just exploring around, and I'm in this town. This town, I would love to go. If this place
is it that first main town on that island?
No.
A different town, okay.
And now I can't remember.
All right, don't spoil.
To save my life. But like it's like this little town that's like nestled in the trees, in the woods. And there's something that they're doing with the lighting where like they have these little cottages sort of in the woods and these big trees, and the sunlight's kind of like filtering through the leaves.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It's so nice. It's just like, oh, I could live here. I could open a tea shop. Then I can just be in the blanket all day.
You'd be a yeoman.
Not a yeoman. That's not vibey or relaxing. Let's open a tea shop.
Yo woman.
I could be a yo woman. Right. And it's just, the game is just so beautiful. Like my eyes are just like saucers. I'm like, wow. every new town that I go, wow. It's so pretty. And it looks so good on the Portal. Honestly, like it looks so beautiful on it. I have not seen any, any issues or anything like that. And I mean, that frame rate is just so buttery. That's so smooth. The load time, so quick.
Good.
So beautiful.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you, for your party, make characters, or did you just go with whatever
I
ones
went with the
given
guys
you?
that they gave me.
Okay.
I like those guys.
Because that's what I did too, but I'm kind of wondering, like, should I maybe not have done that?
No, I like those people.
Because when we were playing, I maybe didn't realize that there was an option to make them from scratch.
You can, yeah.
Yeah.
But now they're like, I kind of level them up, and now they're...
I got one I really don't like.
You don't like Pierre.
I got one guy who's really weak, so he's using my potions. Just kind of dies all the time.
I figured out how to make him better by giving him better armor. Now he's not so weak anymore.
Good solution.
Yeah, but I think I'm definitely going to keep going. It's so fun. I wonder how long this game is.
I think it's 30... Again, it depends how much side stuff you're doing, but it's like 30, 35.
I heard the story is really good.
No. You got it wrong. So this has a lot of people have tried to point this out to you. So you're clearly not paying attention.
Okay, tell me.
The big focus on story comes later, like starting with I think Dragon Quest 4, whereas these are a bit more gameplay focused. It doesn't mean this can't have a bad story, but in terms of the pecking order of Dragon Quest stories, this is not really.
I heard there was a big plot twist in this one.
Well, I think that doesn't. Yeah, there still may be. I think so. That plot twist relates to Dragon Quest 1 and 2 as well. So people who know that series, I've seen saying like, "Oh, well, how are they going to play this off into these next games? This big plot twist." Okay. So, I'm simply relaying what people have said.
You don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a
games.
Dragon Quest expert by any means. I did, however.
I do. Okay, go on. Sorry.
No, you please finish.
I was going to say I do like the simplicity of the story so far. Like I just really like that it's not super complicated.
Right.
You're like going on these very like traditional medieval-y type quests.
Yes.
Steal the crown that the thief stole. Visit the king in the castle.
Right.
Your father died protecting the whoever. Like I appreciate that. Like I like this fairy tale plot. Like I like that. You know, I don't need you to don't mess with it, too much.
Yeah. What I was going to say was I did so in I think it was 2019, they released Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 on the Switch as these kind of semi-remakes, but I think they were based on some Super Famicom remakes they had made of the original Famicom versions, but they also have these kind of like mobile-y looking main characters in them. So the art style is a bit of a mishmash, but it's like this is more true to the original games.
Okay.
Those were on Black Friday sale. So
you got them?
I bought all 3 of those.
Okay.
Like I got all 3 for like $10.
That's pretty good.
So I do at some point want to, because
Like
I've never played like proper, pre-HD remake Dragon Quest 3. So I would like to see
just see it.
What is
You're gonna be spoiled though.
What is different about
already by the beauty of the HD.
Well, that's fine. I just want to see how does it feel back then.
The random battles have not bothered me as much as I thought they would.
Good.
Yeah, they're quick enough to get into and get out of.
When you're on ultra fast, they are.
Heck yeah, it's nice. I can keep up. I'm not dying.
Great.
No one has died.
There were no accusations about dying.
You have people dragging around a coffin for God knows how long.
Stuffing items into a coffin.
Can run away.
Yeah.
Can definitely run away.
It's not a game, but I have started watching on, what do they call it? Amazon Prime Stream? What do they call it?
Yeah, Amazon Prime.
On Amazon.
Yeah.
They have a documentary about Madden, the Madden football games.
Yeah.
It's called It's in the Game. It's a couple it's like maybe, I think it's like 5 or 6 installments that are each about like an hour-ish long. And it's about kind of the origins of this series. The way they tell it is kind of interesting. It's like a lot of like flashback versus flash forward. The flash forward stuff is them in the current Madden, with the current Madden team as they were making last year's game.
Okay.
And they're kind of embedded with them and they're talking about how they're making the game. But they also have the flashback stuff, they got all the real key players to do interviews, find all this archival footage, and talk about like how the series came to be, how it really became this huge juggernaut. And I'm at the point now where it's like 1995 or so. Mm-hmm. It started around the early 90s, so it's starting to really ramp up and get super, super big. The stuff that's focused on the old-timey historical stuff is really good.
Yeah.
And they got one of the key people is Trip Hawkins, who's the founder of Electronic Arts, and he's like super prominently featured doing all these interviews, and he's kind of like a mercurial figure in games, like this big figure, but he's kind of been like out of the spotlight for a while doing other stuff. So I thought it was pretty cool that they got him, and he's pretty like candid about like things that worked, things that didn't work, things that blew up in their face.
Right.
When they were doing this, the thing that's a bummer, John Madden passed away.
I know, so
a couple
sad.
years ago. It would have been amazing
to have him. His perspective. Yeah.
They do have kind of his longtime business manager kind of represent, because he was there for all those conversations, those meetings. He's like, here's what we were talking about. This is what John liked, John didn't like. It's just a shame, though, that he couldn't contribute to that.
How old was he when he passed?
He was pretty old. He was like 80-something years old. And but they do have a lot of old footage of him,
That's cool.
giving them feedback, and like that's kind of one of the main points, is like he himself really shaped this game into like a proper simulation of football, where he was like, these guys didn't know what they were doing. Like, they wanted to have like less players on the field. He's like, well, that's not football. That's not the game that I'm here for. And he's like, if you want to do that, I'm out. I don't want to do this.
Right.
And it sounds like early on there were a lot of versions they were giving him where it's like, okay, we think this is the final one. We think this is good. And he's like, this isn't good enough. You need to fix this, this, or this. And he basically taught them football. From he used to be a coach. So he's like, here's what you need to do.
Learn that from John Madden.
Right. So like that stuff is really cool. I just got to a point where they were just acquiring the rights to include the team names and the player names.
Oh my gosh.
Which they didn't have for the first couple years. It was just like, oh well, it's Dallas versus San Francisco, and we got number 16 on San Francisco.
Oh my goodness.
Which would be Joe Montana, but they can't say
Joe.
It's
Joe
Joe
Montana.
Montana.
To use his name.
And the thing that was amazing was the person who was integral in negotiating these rights is somebody we actually know. His name's Gordon Bellamy.
Yeah.
And he's somebody who's, again, just kind of around the industry in this great way,
Gordon.
who
He's
we've
great.
known for a long time.
Yeah.
I had no clue that he did this.
I thought he was just like...
So when he popped up in this documentary, I was like, what's going on here? And he's like,
that's so cool.
He's like, oh yeah, I started in the QA department, but I came up with this proposal, and I started cold calling these teams to get the rosters. And there's some crazy stories in this that I did not know.
Wow.
One of them was, so at this point, Gordon was one of the producers on Madden. And they were negotiating to get the rights, but they had a deadline to ship the game. And they didn't know if they were going to get the rights. And without telling anybody, he shipped the version that had all the licensed stuff in it. Because he was like, I'm assuming,
pretty confident.
I'm assuming that we're going to seal this deal. But at that point, it was totally not. So they could have printed millions of copies that had this illegal stuff in it. They would have had to have yanked.
Oh, that's a risk.
Yeah. There's another really juicy story about how they started on PC, but they needed to go to consoles, and they went to Nintendo, and Nintendo had their licensing agreement. They're like, this is bad business. We don't want to do this. So they went to Sega, and Sega gave them the same offer. And they were like, yeah, like we said to Nintendo, we're not interested in this. So they reverse engineered the Genesis. I did not know this. And they created their own Genesis cartridge of Madden. And they went to Sega, and they're like, we want to show you something. And they put a cartridge into a Genesis, and they have the old head of Sega of America also contributing to interviews this.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, what? How did you do that? So they basically kind of like backdoored their way into getting this deal with Sega.
Scrappy.
Where they could release the game and get like a better deal. There's more details to that are even more out there, but it's like, wow, this is like interesting parts of gaming history. So even if like you're not like a sports guy or like into sports, like there are parts of this that are pretty interesting.
This is like, you can never do that these days.
No. This is the old days that we talk about.
This is exactly, but what a like miraculous thing that you could do to make this into like one of the biggest franchises ever.
Right.
Like if you were not able to do these backdoor things and potentially illegal things, like it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So it's kind of incredible.
The thing that's not as great about this documentary is all the current day stuff.
Oh.
I just end up fast forwarding through.
Oh, really?
Because it just feels like PR fluff kind of for the modern games. Like, there's a few
things.
Have
you played any of the modern Madden games?
I haven't played in several years because they're kind of...
Because you love football.
They're a little cookie cutter. They're pretty hard to play, too.
That's what I was like, you gotta know some deep strategies.
That is the difference of like all these old sports games where we just pick up and play versus now it's like, I need to memorize like this...
Stats
it's like a fighting game, basically.
Yeah,
I need to memorize all of this stuff. It's like, I don't really want to invest. I just want to play a game.
Did they talk about the Madden curse?
I haven't gotten to that yet, but
I really want to know about that.
I wonder if they do have a lot of like actual football players also.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of them, they're like, yeah, this is like a legit way to learn how this sport works. Or like they have coaches who are like, I started playing Madden, and that's how I started getting an interest in coaching.
Oh my gosh.
So that is an interesting, I bet they talk about that.
I want to know about that because I want to know how real they thought it was. Because it was really a thing.
It's pretty real.
Has it continued on?
It sure has.
No.
Yes, it sure has this year.
Who's on the cover?
The guy on the 49ers who I told you about who keeps getting injured.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so that's a very real thing.
Oh, man.
So anyway, I'm still working my way through this. I had no clue this existed. I forget where I must have seen some tweet or something about it. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So it's easy to miss, but yeah, it's on Amazon. It's pretty cool. Lastly,
yes,
Mario and Luigi Brothership. You have finished it.
I finished the game.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I am still playing. I have gotten past one of the fake out endings where you think the game is over. And it's not, where it's like, good, it's time to finish the fight. It's like, no, it's not.
Sure isn't.
Because we got more to do. So, this is our next spoiler cast game.
It is.
You had some sort of crisis last week with this game that I didn't
have a crisis.
We've really scaled back how much we talk about this game because we want to save it for the spoiler cast. But you seem to have had some sort of internal crisis.
What are you talking about?
Where, I don't know, you were like, I had to marathon this game because I didn't want to get in a situation.
Well, I got nervous because I got to the fake out ending, and then I asked people in our community. I was like, "Where am I in this game?" And they're like, "Oh, you're not anywhere near the end. You're not near the end at all." And I got scared because I thought that I was going to get into another situation where I would be behind somehow, and have to all night the game the day before we record the spoiler cast.
The thing about that, though, is we do not have a time scheduled. We do not
have a
time scheduled to record this yet. So I don't know what imaginary deadline you had in your mind. I'm still playing this game. It's not like you walked in the door yesterday. It's like, time to spoiler cast. Are you ready?
I'm worried because December is really busy for us. We have to go to the Game Awards.
Well, I'm not.
The Game Awards is in a week.
Here we go.
Not less than a week. It's in a week now.
You make fun of me of pointing these things out, and now you're throwing it in my face.
I'm making fun of you right now.
I'm not worried.
You're going to be playing the game for 3 days
during
the game Awards.
Fine, I'm not worried.
You're going to have to come back and I don't want to because
You're going to come in on Christmas Day, and we're going to do a spoiler cast.
I cannot do that. I won't be cutting shorts on Thanksgiving. And I won't be recording a spoiler cast.
A short or a reel or a clip, get to work. I don't care what it is.
I don't want to do it on Christmas. I want to be in the blanket.
So,
the Dragon Quest.
I don't know why you put yourself through that because clearly.
No, it's great.
There was no rush.
I wasn't rushing. It
sounds like you were rushing.
I took a week break to play Black Myth Wukong, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Yes. And then I was like, okay,
it seems you freaked out.
No, I didn't. I said, time to get back to this game.
So I'm just wondering, did this ultimately, taint your experience? We'll find out when we do this. Don't say anything now.
Okay.
I just curious.
Well, the reason why I did it is because I didn't want it to taint my experience. I wanted to play it, beat it.
Is this like reverse psychology, or is this like
myself?
A backwards jinx or something?
On myself?
Yeah, I don't know what you did to yourself. I don't know what you did to yourself. Anything. I'm continuing.
You're gonna be sorry when
I feel no pressure
when I schedule the spoiler cast for
tomorrow.
For tomorrow, and you're not done.
I'm gonna be playing hooky.
Well.
Hooky then.
Who's cutting a reel now on Thanksgiving?
I think we can schedule it for early next week before we go. Get it done. I think I'm gonna be just fine. I'm not
really.
Worried. Yeah.
I think you're better at
the
game than I am, which is another thing. I was kind of bad at it.
Okay, that's fair.
Definitely in the end game, it was pretty hard for me. So, I think you're doing better just in terms of the gameplay. So maybe that's how you're getting through it a little bit faster. I would just say, this is not a spoiler, but I did not do any. I maybe did 2 side quests.
Oh yeah.
I did not do any of the side quests.
Side quests.
So dumb. Main quest only, 48 hours.
Maybe that's the second big loser of 2024.
Side quests?
Side quests and forced stealth are the big losers of 2024. Don't waste your time with this stuff, game developers.
No one wants it. Maybe some people want it.
Pick up the chocobo eggs in the whatever valley. How many hours can I devote?
The chocobo side quest was both stealth and a side quest.
Stealthing a fat chocobo. Great use of my time.
Me behind a mine cart in the desert.
You want to talk about tainting an experience?
Queensborough.
You want to talk about... All right, we're moving on. We're moving on.
The blasphemous word that is Queensborough.
No, time for the news. This is some good news.
Okay.
NES Tetris is coming to NSO on December 12th, 12/12.
12/12.
I didn't realize this, but this is the first time that this version of Tetris has been on another available another way that was not just the NES.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
Very cool.
And
I'll play it.
when Tetris Forever came out, obviously this was a big omission, and people were saying, well, where is it?
Here it is.
So I think this was probably part of that plan that they put together around this game.
Totally. They're like, we have to put it out in NSO.
The two versions that most people know, Game Boy Tetris, that's already there. And now we have this plan to release NES Tetris on NSO.
Nice.
This article that I found talking about this, I think this is from Kotaku, also talks about how NES Tetris has become the kind of competitive version that people remember when
we saw it at Portland.
We saw like the Tetris World Championships, and they were doing it on NES Tetris. So I guess that's a great boon to them to just have this game be more accessible and easier to play. Well, I'm curious. I don't think I've ever asked you this. Tetris has introduced. They talk about this in the documentary. These kind of more newish rules, like the infinite spin, the whatever. How do you feel about those?
I'm a classic Tetris girl.
I am too.
I don't like it. Don't change the game in the middle of the game.
Yeah, there's something about that thing where it's like it's on the ground and you can just continuously. That feels cheap.
That's cheap.
That feels like cheating.
This is like when you use those summons in Elden Ring. You're not playing that game right.
Oh, no.
Capital G gamers would not be happy with the infinite...
toxic gaming takes are here.
Here we are, on Tetris Infinite Spins. That's where I come alive.
Put your diapers on if you're spinning the Tetris thing around, because you're a baby.
You're a baby. But no, that's like a fundamental game mechanic that you're changing. That I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I had a real grudge against NES Tetris growing up.
Your sister.
Because this was the one game that my sister wanted to play. And obviously we had one NES, so when she was playing that, I couldn't play something else. I was like, this Tetris.
Did you have like a schedule?
No.
Where like, you play for an hour, I'll play for an hour?
No.
Or she was a big sister, so
it was just who gets to it first.
Too bad for you.
Yeah.
How many hours could she spend playing?
I mean, I was on this a lot more than she was, to be honest.
Okay, so it wasn't that bad.
It was fine, but I was still like...
My mom loved NES Tetris.
Oh, yeah.
We played that a lot together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It
was fun.
We talked about it a bit earlier. And again, we should be very clear. This is in the rumor zone.
I didn't even want you to put it on.
But they're becoming so persistent that I think just that fact is worth talking about. These Switch 2, quote, leaks.
The Chinese are leaking.
Out of China, yes, on Bilibili.
My peoples.
And other platforms. I asked you about Bilibili, and you were like, I've never heard of Bilibili.
I don't live in China. I don't know. I use Google. I use YouTube. Sorry.
I don't know Billy. I don't know Bill. I don't know Bilibili. But there have been a couple back-to-back days. One of them includes, and again, this is not confirmed. We're just talking about it. It has a guy taking a Joy-Con off of what seems to be some sort
Magnets are there.
Magnets, just pulling it right off.
You were like, translate this in real time as this guy rambles in Chinese.
He was talking about a Joy-Con, and I said, can you tell me anything that he's saying? You're like, no.
I could, but you were like, translate this as he's talking. I'm like, do I look like Bill Trennan? No, I can't do that.
I didn't say live translate this Billy, but come on. The Joy-Con does look a little bit different.
But kind of similar,
too. Yes, like in terms of the shape, but the thing that did catch my eye was if you're holding it sideways on the back, it did have what looked to be pretty chunky, like triggers.
Right.
Almost like
it had more like angles.
I think kind of closer to like an Xbox controller.
It had like
trigger.
a little lip on it. Yeah.
So I guess I'd be curious of how that would like feed into the main unit, having those bigger things there.
It just might stick out the bottom.
It still seems to be tiny though. So
yeah, the size of it didn't seem big.
The form factor of it is a question. But otherwise, it just looked like a Joy-Con.
Here comes the magnets, though.
Otherwise, but with a magnet, with a giant.
No more snap.
It's a clonk. Is it the magnet?
It doesn't roll off the tongue as much.
Right. So that was what that is. Extremely blurry, though. And people were saying this is by design, so that it's like harder to trace. I don't know. All this stuff.
Can they really find this guy on Bilibili?
From Bilibili to Alibaba. Now there have been some
I know what that is.
Switch 2 accessories that have been listed. This is a screen protector and a case. I'm a bit sketchy. The case just says Switch 2. Don't you think this is just somebody being opportunistic?
Someone just
up a random
logo.
I just made a random case and I made up a logo and I put it on on this. I don't know. The screen protector.
This cannot be the real. That can't.
Look at this. You can see the guy's face in the reflection of the screen protector. We're not posting these images, by the way. You can find them yourself, just in case.
Oh, they're gonna get this guy.
Right.
Oh no.
They're gonna track him down.
But
so again, the ramp up of the leaks, the fake leaks, the whatever.
I mean, this thing is getting manufactured.
It's picking up. Yes, clearly there's something happening in China around this.
There's going to be some manufacturing.
There are people who have knowledge of this, who are very hands-on with this thing. So it just seems like this is going to keep picking up.
Yeah. I mean, we're coming to
so again,
January here.
Bend, don't break. Can they get to the full reveal without some full reveal happening?
Major leak
on Bilibili?
Oh, Bilibili.
Yes.
Place to watch.
Right. Don't keep it locked to Nintendo.com. Keep it locked to Bilibili.
Or Alibaba.
Yes, either of those.
Buy the Bilibili.
Billy Baba.
Ali Billy.
Keep it locked. We got another
more China.
Interesting China news. The Switch eShop is closing in China in 2026. So it's just going away. And the initial posting from Nintendo was very light on details.
Yeah.
But I did find a very helpful explanation from old Zuge EX on Twitter. And this, if you don't follow old Zuge, that's Dynasty Warriors character Zuge Liang, who his avatar is based on, by the way. And he explained kind of what's going on. He's an analyst who is keeping track of this stuff. And basically, the Switch eShop in China is a self-enclosed thing. Like, you don't have access to all the games that are available because China has its own way of rating and like approving games to be released.
Yep.
And apparently there was just a very small number of games. Less than 100 games are even on this Chinese eShop.
Do you think they have AAA clock?
No.
Oh.
No.
Darn.
They do not. And this whole thing was done through a Nintendo joint venture with Tencent.
Tencent like owns
everything. Tencent's everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
And that first launched in 2019. And it just sounds like this is, running its course. It's 2026, so it's like 2 years away. You would think by then they would be on to the next thing.
Something else.
It is a lot of advance warning for them to give for something like this. But, when we were there when we first started hearing, like, we now have a partner to help us release the Switch in China. I think a lot of people just immediately assume, like, this is going to be a massive success. Like, oh my gosh, the market's so big, there's so many people, we're going to be raking it in. That didn't happen.
No, that didn't happen. The landscape of gaming in China is so different. Not to mention all the regulatory stuff that is also there that you have to contend with.
And this tweet from old Zuge EX has a great explanation, which is, if you're in China, people just import one from Japan or Hong Kong because they want more than 100 games.
Exactly.
So there's no reason to buy, this China-only Switch that is so limited.
Right.
So that really kneecapped what the potential for what this was going to be. And I don't know how you solve that problem.
You can't.
I
think there is no way to solve that problem.
But it was kind of funny, like, how some people were really just like,
shocked.
Well, it's game over now. We solved China. We did it.
I know. Inside Nintendo, and there was a lot of questions about, what was happening in China, and that was all kind of a separate thing. Like, we were not involved in a lot of those conversations. We didn't really know what was happening in that market, which was really different because in all of the other markets, it was very global, right? We were talking all the time to Japan and Europe and Australia and even Nintendo of Korea sometimes. But China was the one that was sort of like a separate thing. And I think it's just the nature of that market is so different and challenging.
And that's kind of a fact of doing business in China. So I in college I did a year overseas in Hong Kong, and I did take a class on like business in China, and like they spent so much time stressing like if you were not a Chinese company, like unless you have like a Chinese company basically sponsoring you,
like
and taking you through this, like you have no shot at all, which is why Nintendo had to do this partnership with Tencent. But even then, like there were just so many unique things about that market that they could not navigate and solve. It's just super hard. Last story is on the Sony front. I thought we might have a story about their 30th anniversary, but it kind of amounted to
nothing.
Not much.
Okay.
I mean, some nice celebratory things. Congratulations.
Cool looking controller.
Sony. Yes, some very expensive controllers.
Expensive accessories
that you can buy.
Yeah.
But something else that happened is that Shohei Yoshida, who's one of their big executives, is going to be leaving after 31 years.
Wow.
Even longer than the 30-year anniversary.
I know. That's incredible.
Yeah, he was on...
He's always everywhere. I always see him everywhere.
That's the thing about him that gives him so much cred is anywhere you go, any event or something having to do with gaming, he is on the ground. He's just mingling with the people, though.
He seems to like it.
Which is so amazing. Yeah. And I think that made him such a beloved figure over these past few years, which
Truly.
is yes, you were one of the top dogs on the PlayStation team, but you're just one of us.
Yeah.
And you love games.
Right.
And you want to be amongst people who make games. And yeah, I think this is, a blow for them. Obviously, Sony's a big company. He even points out that the company's in a good shape, that this is a good time for him to do this. Mm-hmm. But as far as, being a beloved face of the company, he was one of the big ones.
Yeah, it is. When you see things like this, it does make you always think oh, wow, that's like an end of an era sort of thing. Right?
Yeah.
These people have such generational knowledge about the company history and the company DNA. It's when they leave, no matter what they have passed on, a piece of it goes. Like when Reggie left, a piece of it left.
Right.
So you think about those things when you hear about people like Yoshida-san retiring, and it is really sad, So
yeah, he was most recently the head of their indie initiative. Before that, he was the head of Worldwide Studios, so had some really big positions. Said he is not leaving the industry. I'll read his quote here from the PlayStation. He did a whole episode on the PlayStation podcast. When I hit 30 years, I was thinking, it might be about time for me to move on. The company's been doing great. I love PS5. I love the games that are coming out on this platform, and we have new generations of management who I respect and admire. And I'm so excited for the future of PlayStation. So, PlayStation is in really good hands. I thought, okay, this is my time.
Wow.
Where's he going?
I don't know.
He's going to be sitting right next to me on this podcast chair next week. No.
It's my chair. I'm gone. You're just doing a podcast with Shohei Yoshida. I'll step aside for him.
Yeah.
It's cool.
No, I mean, he's probably got one or two other big things he wants to accomplish in the time that he has left before properly retiring.
Yeah. How old do you think he is?
31 years, so he's probably, late 50s, early 60s or so. But yeah, it's a big change, and yeah, congratulations to him on a great run at Sony.
I know.
Hopefully we'll continue to see him around, because that is one of my bummers that I never properly introduced myself to him.
I know. Yeah. I've played next to him many times.
He's just
played
out
games
there.
next to him many times, but I've never shook his hand and said
exactly.
Well, I'm sure we'll see him at the Game Awards.
That's the news. Let's get on to some questions from our Patreon community. If you haven't heard, you can gift a subscription to our Patreon to your friends and family.
So nice.
Go to patreon.com/KitandKrysta/gift. Pick what tier you want, how many months you want, and there you go.
That's it.
If you're already in the community, that's so great to just gift it to a friend who might be on the fence. Mm-hmm. I love that.
We've seen that already.
We have seen that.
Yeah, and it's
very
great
nice
for
gesture.
them to join our... the Discord is Patreon only.
Yes.
So having, them introducing their friends to our wonderful Discord has been great, and having new people as part of that community has been awesome.
Yes. So. We get all the questions from Patreon. We have a double question about Waluigi.
Oh,
so I'm going to read both of these first so we can talk about these. Starting with The Fist of Dread. I love your show and the little insights you both give on Nintendo. On the latest episode of IGN's Nintendo Voice Chat podcast, Rev Valentine speculated that Nintendo generally does not like Waluigi. Did you two ever hear anything like this while at Nintendo? Do they really hate Waluigi's guts? Thank you. And then from Doinko, the one and only Doinko, public opinion around Waluigi shifted remarkably in your tenure at Nintendo. And I'm curious if a similar shift happened inside Nintendo. Was either one a noticeable cause or response towards the other? For example, did the marketing team start to see value in his character before other departments based on their interactions in social media? Did Nintendo gradually come to understand how to characterize him in a way that created his audience appeal? Or perhaps these trends were naturally symbiotic as the character simply continued to exist. Are there any stories you'd like to share about internal company attitudes toward the character? Were there any funny interactions with individual outliers who loved or hated the character more than the baseline? Thanks as always for another great show.
Wow.
A lot of questions about Waluigi. People want to know.
Waluigi. Yeah, Waluigi went into the meme zone during our time at Nintendo, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's how it shifted the perception of Waluigi. And I think it totally became something a bit symbiotic because it was like, you know, there was so many like fan conversations about Waluigi. I remember very distinctly there was an animation in Mario Tennis where he had like the rose in his mouth. Yeah. And that became like such meme material. And I remember the art team went so ham on that. They loved it. They gave me so many different renders of Waluigi with a rose in his mouth.
We had that one that we did because we had the blue Switch Lite.
Yes.
And that was the one that was like, it doesn't exactly look blue. And we compared it to all these different things.
Yeah.
And they gave us that new render.
That new render with the rose.
That nobody had ever seen. And it was this big conference. Did Nintendo Minute just leak this render? Like, where did they get this? Where did it come from? It became this whole thing.
Right.
It was to the point that I started getting worried. I was like, did we leak that?
No, but I got it off the art. I got it from the art team.
You got it legitimately from the art team. Nobody was mad. Nobody got in trouble.
No,
they
loved that.
That was a big to-do about Waluigi.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, and that's exactly why there was like a very sort of viral internet quality to Waluigi.
Yeah.
And it was that era where his personality, I think, really got doubled down on.
Yeah, being in the social media era, he's a perfect character for that. The social media team loved Waluigi because he was
Wario, but lots of love
they're just
for
like so
Waluigi.
polarizing and have these kind of big outward they just get a big reaction like right when you see them.
Yeah.
I don't think Nintendo hates Waluigi.
No.
Why would you make a character that you hate? That said, Waluigi is a character that is made to not necessarily be likable.
That's true. Nintendo, I think, like they get a kick out of like the developers and the people that are even the bigger executives sort of they get a kick out of Waluigi being the sort of obnoxious guy that he is. But I don't think it's a character that they dislike. But they recognize that it's not meant to be like a Mario. Mario is the heart of gold hero.
Yeah.
That's not who Waluigi is.
Right.
But people like him for that personality, right?
Yeah.
I don't like him. So let's be really clear.
You strongly dislike him.
I strongly dislike Waluigi.
I don't really like Waluigi that much either. I think they went a little too far. They should have just stopped at Wario.
Yeah.
I really like Wario.
I love Wario too.
Waluigi maybe not so much.
Yeah, Waluigi, I never connected with Waluigi. But there were so many people on our team that have like major love.
There's contrarians out there who make a big to-do of like, I love Waluigi.
Yeah.
Waluigi's the best. What do you mean you don't like? Oh, she is a
Waluigi fanatic. She had like so many...
Has she explained this to you, or what?
No, I'm
what
gonna
is
call
it?
her after this.
What is it about it?
Call her after this. She needs to come on the podcast. Actually.
But yeah,
she's
like
due.
that kind of comes
her
part and parcel of working in social media. Is like we're gonna get the most out of this Waluigi character.
Yeah, you know what it is too is that like a lot of Nintendo characters don't have a huge personality.
Yeah.
So when you get the ones that do, like a Wario or a Waluigi, you're like really kind of hone in on it because you're like, this is my only chance to like be funny.
Right.
This is my only chance to do like something, that's a meme or that's a trend on social. That's the only time they'll make an exception is when we get to tie it to a character like Waluigi or Wario, and the social team like have been so starved,
It's so true.
For any kind of personality. It was always like, oh, thank goodness we got to do something with Waluigi. We can finally be funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Been sitting on this joke for like 2.5 years.
All right, moving on from Waluigi, Joshy Josh asks, hello, do you both have any thoughts as to why Nintendo no longer does updates for Animal Crossing New Horizons? With New Leaf, it got the Amiibo update about 6 years after its initial release, while New Horizons only got one large update about 2 years after release, and that's it. Do you think it's because they wanted to allocate resources to immediately work on the next title for the next Nintendo console? Overall, I like New Horizons, but I always found it lacking the same level of depth, personality, and charm that was so present in every moment of New Leaf.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting how the support for New Horizons really dropped off. I feel like this game sort of ran a very interesting timeline because it had like the pandemic happened, right?
And nobody could have predicted the circumstances around which this game actually released.
Exactly, and it became such a fever pitch for this game in the first sort of 1-2 years of the pandemic that I think the game just ran its course sort of quicker than a New Leaf, where it did have a longer life because you were not trapped at home, and those were not your only friends that you could see. And I think that's what happened. It sort of expedited the amount of time that people were spending.
The game burned out a lot faster because we heard of people like, oh well, I'm time traveling, and like within a week or two, it's like, well, I've seen everything in this game.
Yeah.
But it's like, but this is content that was meant to be stretched for years.
Exactly. You're supposed to be playing like an Animal Crossing game, like 20
a little
minutes
bit
a day.
Right, because people had nothing else to do.
Yeah, we were there. Yeah. I played the game 8 hours a day. Like, I had nothing else to do.
Time traveling's forbidden at Nintendo, by the way. Don't do that.
I didn't do it. I still haven't done it.
You're a liar.
I haven't. I swear, I'm such a purist.
You're a huge liar.
We did make someone else time travel for us, remember?
Well, we were doing those videos and sending it to... So you were like... They have some way of knowing if I've ever time traveled. Like there's going to be some little watermark or something.
Yeah, they're going to know.
And
I'm going to get my Switch is going to brick.
Fired.
My Switch
You're going to get
brick.
banned from the NSL.
So I asked somebody else on your team to do it for me.
Yeah.
And they did it. And I got the stuff. And you did the Christmas items.
Scandal. Yeah, I think it was just, it just came out at such a chaotic time that I don't think they could properly adjust to maybe what they would have done under a different circumstance.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just kind of had to roll with what they had and stick to that script. And in the end, it ended up selling, however many dozen million copies. But yeah, it does have this legacy of still being kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah. I have high hopes, though, for what the next Animal Crossing will be in the next hardware generation. I think that they've learned...
4K toilets.
4K toilets,
Imagine that.
But like
pristine.
150 versions.
That's what takes 8 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think it's going to be great. It's going to be, a new, fresh start. Or they just remake New Leaf.
Yes.
Do that.
Oh, that's another way. All right, we got a question from Mei Leon. Greetings, longtime fan, first-time Patreon subscriber.
Welcome.
Actually, first time on Patreon and Discord as well.
Welcome.
I'm figuring it out. The holidays seemed like a good time as any to bite the bullet and sign up. Thanks for all your quality content and hard work over the years. We love that. Thank you.
Thank you. So nice.
I poked my head into the monthly meetup briefly last night and immediately realized I have no idea what was going on. We were playing Pokemon Unite.
Yeah.
Yes. I consider myself a Nintendo fanboy, but confession time, I've never played a Pokemon game. The franchise really took off during a busy period of my life, and I think I just missed that train. I'm also quite a bit older than you and most of your followers. I'm 52, so get off my lawn. Question, what gaming blind spots do you have? Have you missed any trains over the years? Keep up the good work.
Mass Effect. That's probably my biggest one.
You should have got that.
Metal Gear used to be my answer to this.
Well, you know.
But now I've played it this year.
Well, that's a great thing that we've done this year. Is we have really
gaps.
Exercised a lot of those demons of things that we just have not.
I can't believe it. It feels good, doesn't it?
It's been really nice.
It's been so nice.
Honestly, yeah.
But yeah, I would say that one of my biggest gaming, and I love games like Mass Effect, but at the time, now I'm not like this anymore, but at the time, I was like really down on sci-fi. Remember? That was my era.
I think you would have loved Mass Effect.
My era of like, I only like high fantasy, and I didn't like sci-fi, so I would pick like, Dragon Age or something like that over a Mass Effect. But yes, if there was a way to go back to these easily and have it be a modern experience.
Well, what if I told you that this whole trilogy was $5 on the Steam Black Friday sale?
But I don't have a Steam Deck.
These are the updated versions.
I have to play on PC?
Oh my gosh. They release these on PS4. You don't have a disc drive.
No.
Just get it on the PS5 store, PSN store, then you can beam it to your portal. Man. These are problems you've made for yourself.
What do you mean? I didn't have an opportunity to get one with a disc drive.
You've had 15 years to play these games.
Sorry.
Don't blame it on a disc drive.
What about you?
MMOs. It's MMOs.
Oh. World of Warcraft.
And specifically World of Warcraft.
Oh, you would have had so much fun.
The only...
Oh, if only we could have played WoW together.
The only MMO I played is Final Fantasy XI, which I dabbled in and was like, this is not really my jam. We would have had some fun.
Because you always play like a warrior.
Yes,
so I would have played like a support.
But yeah, it was one. I have my reasons. It was.
Well, you were busy.
I don't want to give over all of my gaming time to a single game and feel obligated because I'm paying a monthly fee.
That was what happened.
And feel an obligation that I could play nothing else. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, I'm not getting my money's worth this month. What am I doing?
And you also make so many friends playing a game like World of Warcraft or like MMO.
Right.
And you start to like
your social pressure.
Life is like scheduled around like raids and all that stuff, you know? So you really do feel like that is the only thing you have time for. And at the time I was in college and so I didn't have a life otherwise, so it was fine. But I can see if you had a life that would be hard to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also like I just saw like, and you've told me this too, like that game was so addictive.
Oh.
Like I kind of feel like I dodged a bullet maybe.
I had to really, it was getting pretty bad.
Have an intervention.
I had an intervention myself by selling my character.
Yeah, so
just getting rid of it.
On one hand, it's like, yeah, this seemed great, and a lot of people loved it.
I loved
it. And it's a shame that I missed it, but then on the other hand, it's like, well, what?
It was scary, though.
Maybe my life would have been completely different.
It got to a scary place where I was doing nothing but playing that game.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy how that could happen to you, you know?
We got Pseudo Priest next. We all know that Kit is Machamp's #1 fan, that's true. But what is your favorite Pokemon, Krysta?
Mine?
What is the story behind each of you liking your respective Pokemon? And lastly, what was your first impression as kids when you met the franchise for the first time?
My favorite Pokemon is Togepi. I really like Togepi.
What do you like about Togepi?
I like the little egg that it sits in.
It's good. It's a good reason. And
it's actually pretty good Pokemon, too, I think. Oh, psychic power.
It's pretty good, sure.
It's not bad. I just really like the way it looks.
Just the cuteness.
The cuteness.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed in Japan. We saw no Togepi.
There was none of that. There was
not a single Togepi. We saw a Togetic. We got a Togetic.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
You don't like that as much?
The no egg.
Okay.
I like
it's still somewhat egg-shaped.
No, it's not. It's like a little bird. It's not as cute. I really like the egg.
I think it's pretty cute.
The egg is so cute.
All right.
They don't have a lot of Togepi merch, really. Which is
we didn't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it as much. You know.
I was pretty happy. I was glad to find some Machamp stuff.
You got some Machamp stuff
in Japan. Machamp's kind of in the middle. Of it's not like
what is your history?
It's not like a
Machamp?
Pikachu, Charizard level like iconic Pokemon, but like it does have a history. It's one of the originals. People like it. I love it. I just the idea of like unlimited strength is always very appealing to me. So like in comics,
you don't have it in real life.
In comics, I like the Hulk. Like I'm fascinated by the Hulk. Okay. It's like what is the limit of this thing's strength? And like you can just think about that. Like oh my gosh, like. Could the Hulk or Machamp? What if the Hulk fought Machamp? What would happen?
What would happen?
That's what would happen. A giant explosion. That's what would happen. I don't know. I've always been fascinated by that idea of unlimited strength. And like how could that translate into like a real world thing?
Could you like break like the Empire State
It's
Building?
Very exciting. It's like can you just lift that off the ground? Like how I don't know. There's something about it's very exciting to me.
You're like a 10-year-old boy.
And then you read the descriptions, and it's like even like little Machop. It's like this tiny little thing. It's like it can throw people.
Cute.
It's like wow.
Machop is real cute.
So
though.
Strong.
So
yeah, and I do like the design. I think the design's cool. I think the head of Machamp is very interesting.
It looks like a Ninja Turtle.
It's a little bit Ninja Turtle-y, but it's got those. It's very unique. Mm-hmm. They made a Machamp hoodie that they released.
Did it have the
three little ridges on it.
That's cool.
As for our first exposure to Pokemon,
original.
What was yours?
Pokemon Red.
Continue.
What about it?
Do you have any stories about it or what?
Well, I mean, I was just,
okay.
That was my first Pokemon game.
It came out, so I was in high school when it came out, and I was doing a science project with one of these guys who's still a good friend of mine, and we both kind of got into it at the same time. So we were having like the proper experience of like trading.
Yeah,
playing together, but it was kind of just us. Like, there weren't a lot of other people in high school.
Yeah.
It's not like people were like against it. It's people just didn't really know.
Totally. I had like one friend that
It's not like I got
played.
beat up because I had a Pokemon.
Oh.
That didn't happen.
I didn't do anything with the cards or anything like that when I was little.
Yeah.
But I played, you know, that was my first game. I played with one other friend. This is the same friend that had the N64 that I would go to her house a lot, and we'd play like Mario Kart and stuff like that. So my only gaming friend in high school. She lived really close to me too. Like, we lived like down the street from each other, so we'd go like walk to school together all the time. Oh. And yeah, we would like trade and stuff like that. That was fun. That was really fun.
Yeah. Last question's from Riven. Relatively recently, I think last year sometime, Nintendo announced the opening of Nintendo of Brazil. I've heard that Brazil also has really passionate Nintendo fan base. Do you know anything about Nintendo's presence in Brazil or why they opened a Nintendo Brazil branch when they did? Do you have any interest in checking out Brazil? So what we know about Brazil is, yes, like one of the like most passionate fan bases like in the world for Nintendo, but are in a position where it's just unfortunately hard to get their hands on the product.
Yeah.
Because this is a country where if you're, it might just be electronics, but there's a specific category of thing that Nintendo games and hardware fall under. If it's not made in Brazil, it is subject to these ridiculous markups.
Yeah.
Like hundreds of %. And like people will share like, oh, in Brazil, like this in US dollars, this is what a Switch costs. It's like,
it's crazy. It's like $800.
This is out of reach for everybody.
For a lot of people,
It's nuts. And that was one of the things that, you know, we always heard about was like, hey, Sony they manufacture PlayStation stuff in Brazil. They have a factory. So they don't have this problem. So Brazil is a huge market. It's a huge opportunity, but you need to make a big investment if you want to get serious about it. And in our office, previously where we were, that was where the Latin American branch was. I jokingly called it a branch because it was like 5 people managing all of Latin America.
It was a crazy job.
And they had a big partner. What was the name of it? JVL?
JVL, yeah.
That was kind of actually doing the business that they were managing. But it was crazy, like how big of a market these 5 people.
It was a lot of work.
Had responsibility for. But yeah, they would always lament the Brazil situation. Like, man, you know, we have all these great ideas of things we could do in Brazil. We could be killing it in Brazil, but
we're so limited by these things.
The company is just not really ready to get over the hump on that stuff. And they were slowly making progress. I remember, like in some of those countries, they did launch a dedicated eShop in some of those countries. So they were very slowly making progress, but it always felt like it was not the top priority, but there were slowly some things happening. Yeah.
So it's good that they're making more progress there because I do think it's a big opportunity for them. And they definitely, I think Nintendo definitely recognizes it as a big opportunity.
For sure.
They also participate in a lot of the shows in Brazil. There's a big, I think, gaming show.
BGS.
Yeah. And I would love to go to that. That seems like it'd be really fun. Super fun. I'm very interested in checking this out. You know, we've met a lot of Brazilian fans that come here.
Yep.
For things, and they always
we have our friend Rodrigo, who's a big content creator.
Yeah, Rodrigo's the
Brazil.
best, and we see him, a couple times a year and get to catch up with him, and it just seems like the fan base in Brazil is just amazing. So I would love to go check it out. I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting when they did that last financials, and one of the points was like, the work they'd done in these emerging markets, and when I first saw that like little headline, I was like. Like, what have you actually done? But then I read on, I was like, no, they've actually done a lot. They have made a lot of progress. So,
good for them.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who sent in a great question.
Yeah. All right. Shall we shout out some wonderful Patreon community members?
I think we should.
All right. Start with our final boss, Aaron Hash.
There he is. Aaron Hash.
Aaron Hash is the best.
Might have a big end-of-year surprise coming Aaron Hash's way.
Oh, yeah.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink,
Whatever
nudge, nudge.
Means. Whatever that means.
Sounds like threatening, but it's a good thing.
He's the boss. I can't threaten him.
It's a good thing.
What are you talking about?
All right. Superstars.
Yes.
Ben Eichhorn.
Mara Mayhem.
Eigenverse.
Kiss My Flapjack.
Mike Chin.
Roy Eschke.
Switching it up _
VGM Life.
Link the hero of wins.
Angela Bycraft and her pig Molly.
Thomas O'Rourke.
Kyle LaBeouf.
Roberto Nieves.
Frederick Ulf Conradson.
Andrew Uhas.
Chili.
Simon.
Pressure.
Master Discord.
Ash.
Ajay Kunlas.
And 40 Gig.
Yay! Here come the One Up Club. Aaron Burgundy.
Adcool 2000.
Ali Alejandro.
Aristu.
Astrodev.
Awesome 46.
Axel.
Bates.
Benji B.
Big and Gamer with a Y.
Brandon Cavapil.
Brent Dennison.
Brovac Novak.
Brewstash.
Cameron.
Shadir.
Chelly Squirrel.
Crispy Saurus.
Christopher Lay.
Captain Alex.
C. Roper 17.
Dallas E.
Dachshund.
Doinko.
Dre.
Eccentric Tony.
Echo Ladier.
Elite Peach.
Sparts 50.
Fart Priest 69.
Furbound.
Fernie and Jess Forever.
I may have made a mistake.
What?
Fox
You did make a
Deploy.
mistake, ironically. Funky Han.
Garf the Wolf.
Gartooth.
Guilty Phoenix 42.
Handheld Gamer.
Happy Sloth.
I may have made a mistake.
Iris Marin.
Jay Rando.
Jack Hoving.
Jameson Eisenberg.
Jeffrey Hernandez.
Joe Encarnacion.
Jonathan Rowe.
Jordan Collette.
Jordan Hemmerly.
Joshua Clements.
Juji Fruit.
Justin Lemminger.
Kawa 2796.
Keith Kwan.
Kevin Delane.
Kilo Kibo.
Christopia Party With Me.
Kyle Gamerberry Rookie.
Kyle Kretzer.
Lazy Cat for Coffee.
Lex.
Link 9898.
Little Mikey.
Luigi 53.
Lynn.
Macho Potato.
Mad Dog 5981.
Magnificent Easy G and Callie Marie.
Mario Man 392.
Marky Man 64.
Maverick Nate.
Mecha Dragon 101.
Megan.
May plus Leon.
Mikey.
Mr. Ryan 07.
Motomania.
Mr. Andy Paul.
Mr. Beans and Dip.
MSM Poke Gamer.
Mytran.
Nasir.
Naif E.
Ninja 11.
Noah San.
Peggy.
Patrice Millette.
Paul.
Paul Gill Network.
Prime Factor.
Prince Charmless.
Reaver.
Raintac.
Random Bystander here.
Record Rumble.
Ryuji Utsuhu Okou.
Rob M.
Rob O.
Romsky 113.
Rocks.
Ryanetta.
Sharif Jackson.
Shinryu.
Schmiggles.
Slowbro.
Snaddle.
Spacey Poop.
Spicy Munchkin.
Steel Citrone.
Pseudo Priest.
Tales of Link.
Tandem.
Tay 120 and 64.
Teal Fox 64.
The Kagers.
The Shark Among Men.
Thomas Alvarez.
Three Rivers.
Timmy V.
Torcheeks.
Totally Joette.
Travis Torline.
Trajowie.
Tugs Puppy Bear.
Tusku.
Tyler Geis.
Uncle Junkle.
Video Game Stupid.
Vigmictor.
Viridian.
Virtual Bot.
WG Grizzy.
YU.
Wicked Davy.
Zelgoroth.
Zapatty.
Zero Link.
And Zroid.
Oh, we changed the order, and I no longer
What?
get Schmiggles or Spencer.
Oh. We got a standoff with the Robs. Rob M and Rob O.
Yeah, there's
Well, I was
two
like, wait,
Robs.
that's not the same Rob.
Two Robs among us.
Battle for Rob supremacy.
Alphabetically, it's Rob.
Yes, the alphabet wins in the end.
Alphabetical. Wow. There you have
Big
it.
episode.
Big episode.
Whopper.
Nintendo gets a grade. Do they go in the corner? No, that's good. They won't get any money for their A.
If you got to see what would happen to you.
Not great.
Corner?
Corner.
Oh, so you're a benevolent mother to Nintendo.
I will be a benevolent
All right,
mother.
good for you.
They've got a D, though. That would be bad. That would be bad. Anyhow, please, if you'd like to support us and this podcast that you're listening to right now, please join us on patreon.com/KitandKrysta. We have tons of exclusive stuff in the Patreon, including behind the scenes, bonus Q&As, Discord access, all the things.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
If you're watching this on video on YouTube, please subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave us a comment. And if you're listening on audio, you can also subscribe, give the podcast a 5-star rating, and leave us a written review, if you please. All those things really help. And because this is the end of the if you are doing that Spotify Wrapped or whatever other equivalent of that, and we pop up, send that to us on whatever social channel you've got. As I guarantee you, we will retweet or whatever that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're on the socials.
We love seeing that.
Socials are Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Blue Sky, and Threads. So send it to us on any of those things.
Yes.
And we will repost it. That's it. Gotta
Wow.
go. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.